The plastic feeding bowl split when Ethan pressed it onto Claire's head. "Easy," Lauren said, laughing as she raised her phone. "That's the crown jewel of the estate." A jagged edge caught in Claire's hair. She pulled the bowl free and stared at her cousins. Behind them, Briarwood Kennels sagged under a pale February sky, its gutters dangling like loose ribbons. Dead weeds crowded the exercise yard. The wooden sign had lost half its letters, leaving Briar WD above a painted dog whose face had peeled away. Ethan spread his arms. "Welcome home, Your Highness." 3 hours earlier, Lauren had inherited Aunt Sylvia's ranch house. Ethan had received Sylvia's Buick and what remained of her retirement account. Claire had been given 11 acres, 28 kennels, a caretaker apartment, and a list of unpaid expenses stapled to the back of the property description. Even the executor had looked apologetic. Lauren checked the picture she had taken. "Oh, that's good." "Delete it," Claire said. "I'm not posting it. That isn't what I said." Lauren's smile thinned. Ethan took the bowl from Claire and sailed it toward a trash pile. It bounced off a rusted kennel panel and landed upright. "See," he said, "quality construction." Claire looked at the building and tried to understand why a woman who labeled leftovers with dates and kept spare batteries in 3 designated drawers would leave her this. The front office key resisted until Ethan leaned his shoulder against the door. The frame gave with a soft crunch. A smell of mildew, old disinfectant, and something animal drifted into the cold air. Lauren covered her nose with the cuff of her cream-colored sweater. She had worn that same sweater to the estate meeting, along with suede boots entirely unsuited to Briarwood's red mud. "Well, cozy." "You said you wanted to see it," Claire reminded her. "I did want to see it. The way you want to see a sinkhole." Ethan found the light switch. Nothing happened. He flipped it several more times, as if electricity might respond to persistence. The office still held a reception counter, 2 metal chairs, and a corkboard furred with dust. Sunlight entered through bent blinds and striped the floor. A faded photograph hung crooked behind the counter. Aunt Sylvia, at perhaps 40, kneeling beside a black Labrador, wearing a red bandana. Beside her was May Collins, Sylvia's longtime partner, who had died nearly 10 years ago. Both women were laughing at something outside the frame. Claire straightened the photograph. Lauren opened a drawer with one finger. "You could do one of those before and after videos. With what money? People restore barns for fun. People with houses restore barns for fun." The ranch house had been Claire's home for 18 months, though Lauren had corrected her twice that morning. "You were staying there," she had said. "There's a difference." Claire had quit her job at the Riverbend Hotel when Sylvia stopped being safe alone at night. She had thought she could pick up shifts again after a few weeks. Then weeks became medication alarms, sponge baths, insurance calls, and Sylvia waking at 2 in the morning, convinced May was waiting in the kitchen. Lauren and Ethan had visited. They had brought flowers, soup, a television Sylvia couldn't figure out, and once an expensive blanket that shed blue fuzz over everything. Claire had been grateful for all of it. She had also been alone when Sylvia died. Ethan pushed through a swinging door into the kennel corridor. Whoa. Their footsteps stirred the smell. Runs lined both sides, divided by chain-link fencing. Some gates leaned inward, others appeared solid beneath their rust. A strip of roofing had fallen across the center aisle, where it lay among leaves and mouse droppings. Claire remembered the corridor full of barking. She had been 19 the last summer Briarwood operated, old enough to resent Sylvia for making her arrive at 6 in the morning, young enough to believe resentment excused being lazy. May would sing Motown songs while filling water bowls. Sylvia would pretend to hate it and then supply the next line. The memories seemed impossible inside the quiet building. Ethan rattled a gate. You could host haunted house tours. Don't, Claire said. What? Shake things. I barely touched it. You don't know what's holding anything up. That's encouraging. At the far end, a plywood door opened into the laundry room. The industrial washer was dusty, but intact. Ethan crouched to examine its hoses. This might be worth something. Lauren's attention sharpened. Does it work? No power, remember? You know what I mean. Claire stood in the doorway. It belongs here. Technically, it belonged to Sylvia, Lauren said. Technically, everything here belonged to Sylvia. Yes, and the contents weren't individually listed. The kennel and its equipment were left to me. Lauren sighed. It was the sigh she used when Claire took too long to understand something obvious. No one's trying to steal your washing machine. Ethan had already taken out his phone. Cal knows restaurant equipment. He'll know if there's a resale market. It isn't restaurant equipment. You want to wash a tablecloth in it? I promise it won't call the police. Claire walked away before her face betrayed her. In the next room, she found stacked wire crates, brittle leashes, and cloudy plastic storage bins. One bin contained neatly folded towels. The top towel disintegrated at the corner when she touched it. On the wall, newer strips of blue painter's tape marked 6 kennel numbers. The color had not yet faded. Beneath one strip, someone had written, "Check drain," in thick black marker. Claire rubbed the tape with her thumb. "Ethan," she called. "When was the last time you were out here?" "Never." "Lauren, why would I come out here?" Claire had not been back since Briarwood closed 9 years earlier. Sylvia had rarely mentioned it after May died. Whenever Claire asked why she did not sell, Sylvia said the land wasn't asking for anything. It had apparently changed its mind. Behind the main building sat the caretaker apartment, a narrow cinder block structure with a green door. The key turned more easily there. Inside was one bedroom, a kitchenette, and a living room barely wide enough for a sagging couch. The air was cold enough that Claire could see the edge of her breath. Lauren walked through as if assessing a hotel room she intended to complain about. "There's a shower," she said. A dead spider rested in the sink. "There's part of a shower," Ethan corrected. Claire opened the bedroom closet. Empty wire hangers clicked together. She pictured her suitcase on the floor, Sylvia's boxes stacked beside it, her phone charging from an outlet that might not work. "The estate taxes are due in April," Lauren said from the living room. "Did you see that page?" "I saw it." "And the insurance estimate?" "I saw all the pages. I'm just making sure." "You got quiet." Claire turned. "You want me out by Sunday?" Lauren's expression changed, not into guilt exactly, but inconvenience. "I need to start sorting the house." "You started yesterday." "I mean really sorting it. It's Thursday." "You said you might call Marcy." Marcy had supervised Claire at the River Bend. She lived with 2 bulldogs and a boyfriend who had once accused Claire of stealing $20 from his dresser. Marcy had offered her a couch for a little while, then followed the offer with a detailed explanation of why the bulldogs could not be expected to change their sleeping arrangements. "I'll be out," Claire said. "You can take another week if you need it." "No, I'm not throwing you out." Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Are we pretending this place doesn't count as shelter?" Lauren shot him a look. "What?" he said. "It has walls." "So does a refrigerator box," Claire said. "Not usually this many." He smiled, but only for a second. Then he looked toward the bedroom, where the empty hangers were still moving. "We should get lunch," he said. They did not get lunch. Instead, Ethan backed his pickup to the laundry room door. He and Lauren spent 20 minutes maneuvering the industrial washer onto a dolly they had found in the storage shed. Claire stood beside the truck with her arms folded. "You said no one was stealing it," she told Lauren. "No one is stealing anything. We'll keep track of the value." "For who?" "The estate." "The estate was divided this morning." "Claire, don't turn this into something." Ethan's face had reddened from the effort. "It may not even work. We're doing you a favor by hauling it." They loaded the portable generator next. Ethan found it beneath a canvas cover, along with 2 red fuel cans. The riding mower took longer because one tire was flat. He laughed when Lauren's boots sank past the ankle in mud, and even Claire nearly laughed at the offended noise Lauren made. For half a minute they were cousins again, 3 adults doing something stupid in the cold. Lauren balanced on one foot while Ethan offered useless advice. Then Lauren saw Claire smiling and seemed to remember herself. "You could sell the whole property," she said. "That's the sensible thing." "Probably. Don't wait too long. Every month you hold it costs money." "I understand money. I know. I'm trying to help." Claire watched Ethan tighten a frayed strap over the mower. "Did Sylvia ever tell either of you why she kept this place?" "She couldn't let anything go," Lauren said. "That's not true." "Really? There are 6 fondue forks in her kitchen. She hated fondue." "Exactly." Ethan pulled the strap hard. "Maybe she thought you'd reopen it?" Claire waited for the punchline. He shrugged. "You liked the dogs when I was 19. You like them now?" "I don't know any dogs now. That does complicate the kennel business." Lauren climbed into the passenger seat. Before closing the door, she looked at Claire standing in the ruined yard. "You have the house until Sunday," she said. "I mean that." The offer was supposed to sound generous. Somehow, it landed like a deadline engraved in silver. After they left, the property grew enormous. Claire returned to the office and sat in Sylvia's old metal chair. One leg was shorter than the others. Outside, Ethan's tires had left 2 deep tracks through the weeds. She called the number on the tax notice. She called the electric company, an insurance agent, and a real estate office in town. Each conversation produced a new amount she could not pay. The agent asked whether the kennels were operational. No, Claire said. Are animals currently housed on the premises? No. Do you intend to house animals? Claire looked through the doorway at the dark corridor. No. By 5, the temperature was falling. She drove to the ranch house, packed until midnight, and returned to Briarwood before Lauren woke. Pride was a bad reason to sleep in a freezing building, but it was the only thing Claire currently owned outright. The apartment had power in 3 outlets, and water that ran brown, then clear. The wall heater made a burning smell before coughing out a thin ribbon of warmth. Claire slept in her coat beneath 2 of Sylvia's blankets. At 7 the next morning, engines woke her. She went outside expecting Lauren or Ethan. Instead, 6 vehicles rolled through Briarwood's open gate. 2 pickups, 3 cars, and a white van bearing the blue outline of a running dog. People began climbing out with toolboxes, work gloves, coffee carriers, and rolls of fencing. Nobody looked lost. A tall woman in a red knit cap studied Claire, then glanced at the caretaker apartment, as if confirming something Sylvia had told her. "You must be Claire," she said. Claire tightened her coat around herself. "Who are you?" The woman smiled, though not casually. "We're the people your aunt asked to come." "That isn't an answer," Claire said. The woman pulled off one glove and offered her hand. "Renata Miles, second chance passage." Claire did not take it. Renata lowered her hand without making a production of it. "We're a rescue group," she continued. "Your aunt worked with us. My aunt was sick. She was also stubborn, funny when she felt like it, and capable of using a phone." Behind Renata, a broad-shouldered man in gray coveralls lifted 2 cardboard trays of coffee from the white van. Others began unloading cautiously, watching the exchange. A woman with silver braids held a bundle of push brooms. Someone had brought 2 boxes of donuts. It looked less like an invasion than the world's most organized misunderstanding. "Lauren told you I was here?" Claire asked. If Lauren is the woman who answered Sylvia's home phone and said, "Try the dog dump," then yes. That sounded like Lauren. She didn't tell me anyone was coming. I don't believe she knew who we were. So, how did you know to call? Renata glanced toward the kennel. Sylvia told us to wait until the estate was settled. Cold air moved through the gap at Claire's collar. "She discussed her will with you?" "No, she discussed Briarwood." A man removed a roll of welded wire from a pickup. Claire stepped forward. "Stop unloading." Renata turned and raised 2 fingers. Everyone stopped. No sighs, no exchanged looks. The roll of wire went back into the truck bed. "This is my property," Claire said. "Yes. You can't just show up and start doing things. We weren't going to touch anything without your permission. You brought a van full of tools. Optimists pack hammers." Claire almost smiled, which made her dislike Renata for a moment. The man in coveralls approached with the coffee. His hair was white around the temples, and deep lines bracketed his mouth. He peered at Claire as if trying to fit her face over an older picture. "Claire Bennett," he said. "You still leave garden hoses running?" She stared at him. "Luis Ortega. I worked maintenance here." Memory arrived in pieces, a red bandana tied around a wrist, a radio playing baseball in the tool shed, someone yelling that water was not free just because it fell from the sky. "You had a mustache," Claire said. Luis touched his upper lip. "I lost a bet." "The mustache?" "The right to keep it." He extended a coffee. Claire accepted it before remembering she was defending the property. 2 sugars, a little cream. Her aunt had known exactly how she drank it. Claire looked at Renata. "Did Sylvia tell you my coffee order too?" "No." Luis remembered. "I remember because you called black coffee bean soup," Luis said. May laughed for 10 minutes. At May's name, the yard seemed quiet despite no one having spoken loudly. Claire looked down at the plastic lid. Renata waited. "Come inside," Claire said at last. "Only you 2. The office felt smaller with 3 people in it. Renata took off her red cap, revealing close-cropped dark hair threaded with gray. Luis remained standing until Claire sat, then lowered himself into the other metal chair. It held his weight without collapsing, though it complained. Renata noticed the photograph Claire had straightened. That was taken the week they opened. You were here? No. Sylvia showed me another copy. When? 4 years ago. Claire turned from the photograph. Briarwood had already been closed 5 years. Yes. Then why were you talking about it? Renata looked at Luis. He opened his coffee and focused on peeling a loose strip from the paper cup. We place animals in foster homes, Renata said. Mostly dogs, some cats, the usual work. But we kept getting calls we weren't built to handle. An adult going into the hospital for a month, someone entering treatment, someone whose apartment flooded. Their pets weren't unwanted, but the choices available to them assume they were. Boarding kennels exist. They're expensive. So are animals. Yes, Renata said. Which is why people in trouble sometimes surrender one they love before they'll admit they can't manage the cost. Claire heard no sales pitch in her voice. That made it harder to dismiss. Sylvia proposed temporary placements, Renata continued. Not adoptions. The animals would have return dates and named owners. We tested it through our foster network. 21 placements over 2 years. And that has what to do with this place? She wanted Briarwood to become the permanent site. Claire laughed once. It sounded wrong in the dusty office. Permanent, she said. Have you looked at the roof? Frequently. The water was brown last night. It runs clear after 4 minutes, Luis said. The apartment line sits. Claire turned on him. You've been inside the apartment? Not since November. November. Luis looked toward Renata again. She gave him no help? Claire put the coffee on the counter. Both of you had keys. Renata reached into her coat. She removed a ring holding 6 keys and a worn brass tag shaped like a dog bone. Briarwood had been stamped into one side. On the other, almost rubbed away, were the initials S.B. Sylvia Bennett. Renata placed the ring on the counter between them. They belong to you now. Claire remembered the keys hanging beside Sylvia's kitchen door years ago. May used to loop them through a belt clip because Sylvia misplaced them twice a day. After Briarwood closed, Claire assumed they had gone into one of Sylvia's crowded drawers. Instead, strangers had been carrying them. What were you doing here in November? She asked. Draining the outdoor lines, Luis said. Who gave you permission? Sylvia. She could barely get out of bed in November. She called me from it. Claire's face went hot. I was in the next room. Luis's expression softened, which made it worse. She asked about you every time, Renata said. I don't care. All right, I mean it. Don't do that. Don't tell me this was secretly about me. Renata leaned back. It wasn't secretly about you. The answer struck harder than reassurance would have. It was about the work, Renata said. She began before she got sick. She kept going when she could. In November, she asked Luis to winterize the lines because weather does not care how anyone feels. Luis nodded. That sounds like Sylvia. Claire picked up the keyring. The brass dog bone was cold from Renata's pocket. Why leave it to me? Renata's eyes moved to the keys in Claire's hand. That question belongs between you and her. She's dead. I know, so everybody else gets to know what she planned, and I get a question that belongs to a dead person? No, Renata said. You get the property. You also get to say no. Outside, one of the volunteers laughed at something. The sound came through the broken frame, ordinary and irritatingly alive. Claire paced behind the counter. Did she promise you this place? No. Did your group give her money? We paid for a plumbing assessment and some materials. Nothing that creates a claim? Was she planning to run it? Not by the time we met her, so she was planning for me to run it. No. Claire stopped. Renata rested her forearms on her knees. Sylvia said you might sell. She said you might bulldoze the buildings, or live here, or never set foot past the gate. She was very clear that we were not to arrive with a sad story and trap you into finishing something because she died. You arrived with 12 people and donuts, 14. 2 are still in the van because they think this is going badly. Luis raised a hand. It is going a little badly. Renata ignored him. We came because Sylvia asked us to show you what exists here before you decide it's nothing. That's all. Claire stared through the blinds at the waiting volunteers. One man had started doing small hops to keep warm. The woman with silver braids was drinking from both hands around her cup. How much would it cost? Claire asked. To rebuild everything? More than either of us has. Then this is pointless. To open 6 safe runs for a trial, still not cheap, but possible. The blue tape marks the runs with the best drainage and soundest gates. Claire thought of check drain written on the wall. You did that? Luis, the tape looks new. I replaced it in November, Luis said. Old tape loses hope. Despite herself, Claire looked at him. He shrugged. Adhesive, same thing. Renata stood. We can walk you through the building, or we can leave. We can come back if you call. We can also never come back. What do you want? The honest answer? That would be a fun change today. I want this place open. Our foster homes are full, and every week I tell adults in terrible situations that love isn't enough to create space. I hate those calls. But wanting Briarwood does not make it ours. Claire ran the brass tag across her palm. Walk me through it. Renata did not smile. She simply opened the office door and motioned for Luis to lead. He knew where the corridor floor sloped beneath the leaves. He warned Claire before stepping under the fallen roofing strip and showed her that it was insulation, not part of the roof itself. The damage above it was limited to a broken ceiling panel where raccoons had entered. That gutter outside looks like the whole building's coming down, Claire said. It looks dramatic, Luis replied. Buildings enjoy attention. At run 14, he crouched and pressed the concrete near the drain. It was dry. Run 15 held a shallow puddle from a leak in the wall. These 6, Renata said, touching the blue markers one by one, cleaned, repaired, and separated from the back wing. Enough for a trial. You'd put dogs in here? Not like this, but eventually. If it passed inspection, and we could ensure the operation. There were no gleaming hidden rooms, no equipment beneath tarps that would solve everything. The 6 marked runs were simply less ruined than the others. Their latches moved. Their fencing did not sway. Light entered through high windows, filmed with dirt. Claire tried to imagine barking and could not. In the storage room, Luis noticed the empty space beneath the canvas cover. Generator? He asked. Ethan took it. His jaw tightened. Washer too? And the mower. Those were kennel equipment. Apparently the estate is keeping track of their value. Luis muttered something in Spanish. Renata examined Claire. Do you want help getting them back? No. That answer came quickly enough to surprise all 3 of them. She did want the equipment returned. She did not want her first act as Briarwood's owner to be asking strangers to fight her cousins. They reached the rear door. Through its dirty window, Claire saw the volunteers still waiting in the yard. What did Sylvia expect you to do today? She asked. Clear the office and assess the 6 runs, Renata said. She thought it might be easier for you to understand if you saw people working. She thought wrong. She did that sometimes. Claire looked at her sharply. Renata's mouth shifted at one corner. Your aunt was not a saint. She once called me at 5:30 in the morning to explain why my intake forms were stupid. They probably were. They were a little stupid. Something inside Claire loosened and immediately tightened again. She opened the rear door. Cold sunlight fell across the corridor. No work today, she said. Renata nodded. I need time. You have my number. The volunteers packed what little they had unloaded. No one appealed to Claire. The silver-braided woman offered her a donut for later, wrapped in a napkin. Luis lingered beside the white van. The main shutoff is behind the apartment, he said. Forecast says 26 tonight. Keep the cabinet door under the kitchen sink open so warm air reaches the pipes. I can handle it, I know. That's why I told you where it is. He climbed into the passenger seat. As the vehicles pulled away, Claire noticed they had left nothing behind except tire prints and the wrapped donut in her hand. She stood alone until the last pickup disappeared beyond the gate. Then she returned to the kennel corridor and stopped beside the 6 pieces of blue tape. Run 9, Run 10, Run 12, Run 14, Run 16, Run 18. The latches were stiff but movable. She tested each one. At Run 18, the gate opened with a clean metallic click. On the other side lay an old rubber ball, faded almost white. Claire picked it up and squeezed. It collapsed in her hand, then slowly filled itself with air again. She carried it back to the office and set it beside the key ring. Then she called the real estate agent and canceled the afternoon appointment. The real estate agent paused long enough for Claire to hear keyboard tapping. May I ask why? No? Of course. It's just that acreage like this can become expensive to hold, especially with commercial structures. I'm getting that impression. If you change your mind, I can be out Monday. No obligation. Claire thanked him and hung up. The office returned to its old, breathing silence. Wind slipped through the damaged doorframe and made the blinds tap against one another. Canceling the appointment had not repaired a single pipe. It had not put money in her account or returned the washer. It had only preserved her ability to make the same decision later. She ate the donut over the sink in the caretaker apartment, holding one hand beneath it to catch the glaze. The next morning, she drove to Sylvia's house to collect the rest of her belongings. Lauren had already placed small yellow stickers on the furniture she wanted to keep. The living room looked diseased with them. A sticker sat on Sylvia's blue recliner. Another marked the side table where Claire had lined up evening medications. The television wore two. "You don't need a sticker on everything," Claire said. Lauren emerged from the hallway carrying a stack of folded sheets. "It's an inventory system. It's a pack of office supplies. It keeps Ethan from loading whatever he sees into his truck." Claire looked toward the driveway. "How's that system working? I spoke to him about the kennel equipment, and he said Cal thinks the washer might bring $800 if it runs. It isn't his to sell." Lauren placed the sheets on the couch. "I told him not to list it yet. Not yet. We're all trying to figure this out." Claire walked into the kitchen. Sylvia's calendar was gone from the refrigerator. So were the medication chart, the emergency numbers, and the magnetic clip that had held grocery receipts. The white surface looked larger than it had any right to. "Where's the calendar?" I threw it away. Claire turned. "Why?" It was February's calendar. It had her handwriting on it. It had notes about stool softener and a podiatry appointment. It still had her handwriting. Lauren's face changed. She looked down at the sheets in her arms as if she had forgotten she was carrying them. "You can't keep every depressing piece of paper because she touched it," she said. Claire opened the trash cabinet. The bag was new. "When did you throw it away?" "Yesterday. The garbage went out this morning." Of course it had. Lauren had never remembered trash day while Sylvia was alive. Claire had sent reminders. She closed the cabinet. "Some rescue group called here," she said. Lauren moved past her and put the sheets on the kitchen table. "They were weird." "What did they say?" "They asked for you. I told them you weren't here. You told them to try the dog dump." Lauren had the decency to look embarrassed. "I didn't know they were going to repeat it. That's the part you're worried about?" I was tired. So was I. There it was, the sentence both of them owned and neither would release. Lauren pulled out a chair. What did they want? They knew Sylvia. From where? The kennel? Lauren frowned. It's been closed forever. Not to them. Claire waited to see whether the idea hurt her cousin too. Lauren picked at the corner of a yellow sticker caught on her sleeve. Aunt Sylvia talked to everybody, she said. No, she didn't. She talked to cashiers. She knew the mail carrier's entire medical history. She worked with these people for years. Okay. She planned to reopen Briarwood with them. Lauren looked up. For one clean second, she appeared startled rather than skeptical. Then her mouth tightened. When? Before she got sick. While she was sick. That doesn't make sense. No. Did she give them money? I asked. They paid for a plumbing assessment, but they don't own anything. Make sure they don't think they do. They don't. You've known them one day, and you've known them no days. Lauren stood. I'm trying to protect you from fixing the worthless dog dump, from being taken advantage of because you're upset. Claire almost told her that the rescue group had carried Sylvia's keys. She stopped. The keys were in her coat pocket now, the brass tag pressing against her hip. Lauren would hear betrayal. Ethan would hear resale value. Claire was not ready to let either of them touch that part. I want the generator and washer returned, she said. The mower too. I'll speak to Ethan. I can speak to Ethan. Then why are you telling me? Because you helped him load them. Lauren walked to the counter and began aligning a row of Sylvia's coffee mugs. She did it by height, handles turned precisely to the right. The items in the house came to me, she said. The retirement funds and car went to Ethan. You received the land and buildings. Nobody sat there identifying every object. The washer was bolted to the kennel floor. That doesn't automatically make it part of a building. Try that argument with your toilet. Lauren's hand froze on a mug. It was the green enamel one Sylvia used during the last months because she no longer trusted herself with ceramic. The rim was chipped and faint brown lines stained the inside despite repeated scrubbing. Claire remembered holding it while Sylvia drank through a straw. Lauren put a yellow sticker on the bottom. "You don't even like that mug," Claire said. "I'm not discussing mugs with you. I washed it every day." And I gave it to her. Claire had not known that. Lauren carried the mug into the dining room. She held it with both hands. Their griefs kept meeting in doorways and refusing to move aside. Claire packed her clothes, toiletries, and the books stacked beside the guest room bed. Lauren had put everything else she believed belonged to Claire into black garbage bags. Most of it did. One bag also contained a set of floral towels Sylvia had owned since the 90s, and a framed photograph of May standing beside a grooming table. "You can keep those," Lauren said when Claire lifted the towels. "Thank you." The words sounded sarcastic. Claire had meant them sincerely enough to resent how they came out. Lauren followed her to the front door. "You really slept out there?" "Yes." It got below freezing. "The pipes survived. That wasn't what I meant." Claire shifted the box against her chest. Lauren looked toward the Buick parked in the driveway. Ethan had not picked it up yet. "You can stay here through next weekend. You want to inventory the guest room. I want you not to live in a kennel. It has walls." Lauren's mouth twitched despite herself. "Ethan's an ass. He can be. So can you." Claire nodded. "I'll see you later." At Briarwood, she arranged her belongings in the caretaker apartment. There were no drawers in the bedroom, so her clothes remained in the suitcase. She placed May's photograph beside the bed and folded Sylvia's floral towels under the sink. Then she called Marcy at the Riverbend Hotel. Marcy answered on the fifth ring with, "If this is about room 214, I already comped the night. It's Claire." Silence. Then, softer, "Oh, honey." Claire stared at the dead spider still resting in the sink. "Any overnight shifts open?" Marcy gave her 3 condolences, 2 complaints about the current desk staff, and an offer of Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and alternating Sundays. It was less work than Claire needed, and more than she had 5 minutes earlier. She accepted. That afternoon, she swept the kennel office. Not because she had decided anything, she told herself. Dust had begun sticking to the bottoms of her shoes and turning up in the apartment. The first broom lost half its bristles. The second worked. She filled 4 contractor bags with leaves, mouse nests, ruined paperwork, and pieces of ceiling tile. She kept the old appointment books, though she did not open them. The rubber ball remained beside the brass key tag on the counter. By sunset, the floor was visible. The improvement was insulting. One clean room made the rest of Briarwood look worse. Claire took out Renata's card. Second chance. Passage appeared above a phone number and a blue drawing of a running dog. Beneath Renata's name, her title read, Director of Operations. Claire dialed before she could start inventing reasons not to. Renata answered with barking in the background. "I want numbers," Claire said. "Good evening to you too. How much for the 6 runs?" "Let me move away from the beagle argument." The barking faded, followed by the thump of a closing door. "We have an assessment," Renata said. "Some prices are outdated. Luis can update materials. The largest immediate costs are electrical work, plumbing repairs, insurance, and separating the usable corridor from the unsafe sections. What can your group pay? Some materials, dump fees. Our volunteers can provide labor where it's legal and sensible. We have donated gates and crates. And the taxes, the property owner, me, yes. What about operating costs? We raise placement funds case by case. The longer model requires paid boarding on the front wing, but that wing isn't part of a 6-run trial, so the trial loses money. The trial proves whether the arrangement works. For you. For both of us. Claire sat in Sylvia's chair. It rocked beneath her. What if I hate it? You stop. What if you fill the runs and then I stop? We don't abandon animals on your doorstep. Every placement has an exit plan. What if the building fails inspection? We don't open. What if I say I want to sell in 3 months? Renata paused. Then I ask for enough notice to move any active placements. After that, you sell. No guilt. No speech about Sylvia. Claire looked through the clean office doorway toward the blue tape in the corridor. 90 days, she said. 6 runs. Nobody touches another part of the property unless I approve it. Agreed. No fundraising campaign about a grieving niece saving her aunt's dream. Gladly. No naming anything after Sylvia. That one may hurt Luis. He'll survive. He's unusually durable. And I'm not promising to run the place. You're not promising anything beyond the trial. Claire squeezed the rubber ball. It collapsed. then slowly rounded in her hand. When can you start? Renata's answer came too quickly. 7 tomorrow. You already asked the volunteers, didn't you? Optimism, Renata said, owns a calendar. At 7 the next morning, the vehicles returned. This time Claire opened the gate before they arrived. The first person through was the silver-braided woman, carrying 2 push brooms over one shoulder. Permission to enter the kingdom? She asked. Claire stepped aside. Stay out of any building that isn't the main kennel, the woman nodded solemnly. The moat? Mostly mud, I noticed. She introduced herself as Celia Hart and handed Claire a paper sack containing breakfast biscuits. Then came Luis, Renata, and 11 other volunteers, each pausing at the gate long enough for Claire to recognize that Renata had explained the rules. No one brought a hammer. Very restrained, Claire told her. They're in the trucks. Renata carried a roll of blue shop towels and a whiteboard with a cracked corner. She propped the board on the office counter and wrote, 6-run trial across the top. Under it, Claire added, ask before removing anything. No work beyond blue tape. If something looks unsafe, it is. Luis read the last rule, a little broad. Then you'll be pleasantly surprised. You are definitely Sylvia's niece. Claire capped the marker. We aren't doing that. Luis lifted both palms. Understood. Renata divided the volunteers into teams. Celia and 2 others began clearing the office. Luis took 3 people to inspect the drains. The remaining volunteers carried ruined bedding and broken plastic bins from the storage room, forming separate piles for disposal, cleaning, and Claire's review. Claire had expected cheerful chaos. Instead, Renata made everyone sign in, assigned protective masks, and stopped a man named Dennis from lifting a waterlogged cabinet until Luis checked the wall behind it. We rescue dogs, Celia said, sweeping mouse droppings into a pan. We try not to create emergencies involving people. The kennel filled with scraping, footsteps, and the occasional metallic bang. Dust rose in gray sheets. Someone opened the high windows. Cold air pushed through the corridor and carried away a little of the old smell. Claire moved from room to room, answering questions she mostly did not know how to answer. Keep this crate if it's sound. How do I tell? Ask Renata, can this shelving come down? Ask Luis. Where do you want the salvageable leashes? Ask. Claire stopped. Office, left side of the counter. The volunteer nodded and carried them there. By 9, Claire had established 3 more sorting areas and written labels on pieces of cardboard. Crates against the north wall, cleaning supplies in the laundry room. Anything bearing Sylvia's or May's name in the office for Claire to examine. The last category produced almost nothing. A clipboard marked SB, 1 scratched travel mug with May written in nail polish, and a laminated feeding chart, too faded to read. Claire kept all 3. Luis removed the drain cover in run 9 and pulled out a root mass as thick as his wrist. Good news? He called. Claire came over. That isn't what good news looks like. It hasn't reached the main line. What does bad news look like? You don't want to meet him. He fed a narrow metal snake into the drain. Water. Celia poured at the far end of the run, disappeared with a sucking sound. 1, Luis said. There were 6 drains. 2 cleared easily. 1 required the removal of a compacted plug of fur, dirt, and what Dennis insisted was part of a tennis shoe. Run 14 drained slowly even after Luis worked on it for half an hour. Run 18 did not drain at all. Luis sat back on his heels. We need a camera. We have phones, Claire said. A pipe camera, of course. I can borrow one from a plumber who owes me money. Will borrowing the camera reduce what he owes you? No. Then he still owes you money? Yes. Claire considered this. I'm beginning to understand your financial system. It has flaws. At 10:30, Renata made everyone stop for water. Claire tried to continue carrying bags to the dumpster. That includes the property owner, Renata said. I'm not a volunteer. Dehydration respects legal distinctions even less than weather. Claire dropped the bag beside the rear door. You rehearse these lines? I've had a lot of stubborn people. They drank coffee in the exercise yard. Celia passed around the remaining biscuits while Dennis told a long story about mistaking a skunk for a black and white cat at a nighttime intake. Nobody seemed to notice that Claire stood slightly outside their loose circle, or they noticed and let her. Luis sat on an overturned bucket, studying the roofline. Gutter has to come down. Is the roof sound? Claire asked. Mostly. Mostly isn't comforting. The east corner needs patching. The main span is better than it looks. That should be Briarwood's slogan, Celia said. Better than it looks. Put it on the sign, Dennis suggested. Claire glanced at the peeling dog face above the entrance. The sign isn't on the 6-run list. But slogans are free, Celia said. Not after you print them. They had just gone back inside when a car horn sounded at the gate. Lauren stood beside her SUV holding a cardboard box. She wore rubber boots this time, glossy black ones with gold buckles. They looked expensive, but at least acknowledged the existence of mud. What is all this? She asked. People. I can see people. Claire took the box. Her phone charger lay on top, along with a hairdryer, 3 envelopes, and a ceramic lamp from the guest room. You left those, Lauren said. Thank you. A volunteer passed behind them, carrying a bent kennel panel. Lauren watched until he disappeared into the building. You called them back. Yes, you said the place needed hundreds of thousands of dollars. I said it needs more than anyone has. That's not different. It feels different. Lauren lowered her voice. Did you sign something? No. Did they? No. Then what exactly is happening? Claire shifted the box against her hip. We're cleaning 6 runs. For what? A trial. Lauren stared at her. You don't know how to run a rescue. Neither did they until they did. That's an inspirational answer. It isn't a practical one. I didn't say it to inspire you. Renata came through the rear door carrying a coil of hose. She stopped when she saw them. Lauren, I assume. Lauren looked at Claire. You disgust me? Only your gift for directions, Renata said. Lauren's expression cooled. I'm Sylvia Bennett's niece. So is Claire. I know who Claire is. Renata waited, then extended her hand. Renata Miles. Lauren shook it. She had been raised too well to refuse and was angry about it. What did my aunt promise your organization? She asked. Nothing. You expect me to believe 14 people drove out here for nothing? I wouldn't say nothing. Celia got 2 free biscuits. From inside, Celia called, 1.5. Lauren did not smile. My aunt was seriously ill. Your aunt began this work before her diagnosis. Work nobody in the family knew about. Renata glanced at Claire. The glance was small, but Lauren caught it. She knew, Lauren said. No, Claire replied. I found out yesterday. Lauren looked almost relieved. Then she looked ashamed of being relieved. So you both knew her, Renata said, and neither of you knew this part. That happens. Not when you take care of someone every day, Lauren said. Claire flinched. Renata's face went still. I wouldn't know. The answer left Lauren nowhere comfortable to stand. She reached for her car door. Ethan is bringing the Buick over this afternoon. I told him to return the equipment. Claire waited. He said the washer is already in Cal's storage unit. Then he can get it, I told him. The generator? In his garage? And the mower? Lauren rubbed mud from one glossy boot against the back of her calf. He says he spent 2 hours hauling everything, and he isn't spending another 2 hours bringing it back until someone decides what belongs to whom. It belongs here. I'm not arguing with you. You're delivering his argument. I came to bring your things. Claire looked into the box. One envelope was a sympathy card addressed to all 3 cousins. Lauren had opened it. I said thank you. Lauren climbed into the SUV, then paused with the door partly closed. There's chili in the refrigerator at the house. I made too much. Lauren, you can come get some or not. It's just chili. She drove away carefully, avoiding the tracks Ethan had made. Renata picked up the coil of hose again. You didn't have to do that, Claire said. Do what? Stand there. I needed the spigot. Claire followed her gaze. The spigot was 6 feet to Claire's left. Right, Claire said. Renata walked past without another word. By noon, the office windows had been washed. Pale rectangles remained on the walls where old notices had protected the paint from sunlight. The floor beneath the dirt was green linoleum, cracked but mostly level. Celia set May's travel mug beside the rubber ball. She had great handwriting, she said. It's nail polish. Still. You knew her? No. Sylvia talked about her. Claire ran her thumb over the raised letters. What did she say? That May could calm any dog and couldn't balance a checkbook. That's accurate. She said May thought every animal deserved a soft voice on its worst day. Claire put the mug down. That sounds less like May. Maybe Sylvia improved it. She did that with stories. Most people do. Celia went back to work, leaving Claire unsure whether she had been comforted or corrected. The borrowed pipe camera arrived after lunch in a dented case. Luis fed its cable into Run 18's drain, while Claire watched the small screen. The inside of the pipe looked like the tunnel of an unpleasant amusement park ride. At 12 feet, standing water covered half the opening. At 17 feet, the camera stopped. Luis rotated it. A pale line crossed the screen. "Crack?" Claire asked. "Separation at the joint. Soil came through." "How bad?" "We dig outside, replace that section." "How much?" "If we do the digging, material isn't much. And if it's deeper than you think, it will cost more than I think. Your system has another flaw." Luis turned off the camera. All systems do. They marked Run 18 unusable and added Run 16, which had a sound drain but needed a new gate latch. The change bothered Claire more than it should have. She had begun thinking of the 6 blue strips as a promise, even though she had not placed them. At 3, Renata gathered everyone at the whiteboard. They had cleared the office, laundry room, and selected corridor. 4 drains worked. 2 required repairs. All 6 runs needed pressure washing, sealing, and new resting platforms. The divider wall had to be rebuilt before animals could use the front section. Luis added a rough materials estimate beneath the list. Claire stared at the total. "That doesn't include electrical," Renata said. "I was happier before you said that. We have donated lumber and gates. We can cover the drain materials. How much can you cover altogether?" Renata named an amount slightly less than half the estimate. Claire calculated hotel shifts in her head. Rent was no longer a problem, if a freezing cinderblock apartment counted as solving rent. Food, gas, taxes, insurance, and utilities still existed with their usual lack of imagination. "Stop," Renata said quietly. Claire looked at her. "Stop what?" "Trying to pay for all of it in the next 30 seconds. "I'm calculating. You're turning pale. I'm cold." "You're inside?" Claire capped the marker harder than necessary. "I said 90 days. I didn't say 90 free days. No one asked you to." "Money asks." Renata studied her, then nodded toward the whiteboard. "Today's work cost you nothing. It cost 14 people a day. They chose to spend it. That doesn't make it nothing." "No," Renata said. "It makes it theirs to give." The volunteers began collecting masks and gloves. Claire stood at the rear door and thanked each person as they left. The words felt inadequate by the 4th repetition and embarrassing by the 10th. Celia was last after Luis and Renata. She handed Claire the cracked broom. "Souvenir. It's garbage. Then you won't feel guilty throwing it away." Claire watched the vehicles disappear through the gate again. Inside, the kennel no longer smelled abandoned. It smelled of bleach, wet concrete, and the tomato soup Dennis had spilled near Run 12. Claire walked to Run 18, peeled off its blue tape, and carried it to Run 16. She pressed it above the latch, smoothing the edges with her thumbnail. The gate stuck halfway. She lifted it slightly as Luis had shown her, and tried again. This time, it closed. It closed with a sharp, satisfying clang that echoed through the empty corridor. Claire opened it again just to be sure. By the time she reported for her first overnight shift at the river bend, the sound of metal gates had worked its way into her muscles. Her shoulders hurt from lifting. Her palms had acquired blisters beneath the places where old calluses had once been. Marcy stared at Claire's hands across the front desk. "What have you been doing? Cleaning? With sandpaper?" "Close." Marcy was 52, wore glittering eyeshadow at all hours, and could detect an unpaid minibar charge through 2 walls. She had supervised Claire for almost 4 years without ever learning to lower her voice. "I thought you inherited real estate," she said. "I inherited surfaces." "Are you selling?" "Maybe. That means no." "It means maybe." Marcy handed her a stack of registration cards. "You're on with Dale until midnight, then he leaves you the kingdom. Breakfast attendant comes at 5:30. Do not let anyone from room 214 convince you I promised them a hot tub. Is there a hot tub? There is not. Then I like my chances." The work returned to Claire more easily than expected. She checked in a traveling nurse, found extra pillows for a truck driver, reset the lobby television after a guest somehow changed the language to Portuguese, and explained 3 times that the vending machine accepted $1 bills only if they were not damp. At 2 in the morning, when the building went still, she opened the insurance estimate for Briarwood on the desk computer. She closed it after 7 minutes. At 3, she opened it again. The commercial coverage required a separate policy from the apartment. The company wanted updated electrical service, proof that the damaged rear wing would remain inaccessible, and photographs of repaired gates and drains. The premium was due before any animals stayed overnight. Claire wrote the amounts on the back of an unused registration card. Then she wrote her weekly hotel pay beneath them. The numbers did not argue. They simply refused to meet. When she returned to Briarwood after sunrise, a riding mower sat in front of the caretaker apartment. One flat tire had been inflated. A handwritten sign taped to the steering wheel said, "Returned under protest." Ethan was asleep in the driver's seat of his pickup. Claire knocked on the window. He came awake violently, grabbing the steering wheel with both hands. "Good morning," she said. "What time is it?" 7:10. "Why do you look pleased?" "I'm not. You look a little pleased. I enjoyed that more than I should have." He rubbed his face and climbed out. His hair stood up in the back. He was wearing yesterday's jeans and a gray sweatshirt from a brewery that had closed 2 years earlier. "I brought the mower," he said. "I noticed. Lauren has declared herself neutral, which apparently means calling me every 40 minutes. Where's the rest? The generator needs to be drained before it goes anywhere. It came from here, and it nearly came apart on the highway because the tie-down points are rusted. The washer in Cal's unit. Get it out. Cal's in Atlanta, then call him. He's at a food service convention." Claire looked at him. "It's a real thing," Ethan said. "Restaurants need conventions too. How did you put it in his unit if he's in Atlanta?" "He left the key with his brother. Call his brother. His brother and I aren't speaking." "Do you hear yourself?" "All the time. It's exhausting." Claire pulled the protest sign from the mower. "Thank you for bringing this." "You're welcome. Now, bring the other equipment." His mouth tightened. "We still haven't settled who owns it." "I own it." "You own the building. You took a washer out of my laundry room. Your laundry room didn't exist to you until Thursday. That doesn't make it yours." "No, apparently death makes things ours." He said it lightly, but the words remained between them after his smile disappeared. Claire folded the sign twice. "Did you know about the rescue group?" Lauren told me. "Before that." "No." "Did Sylvia ever ask you to come out here?" Ethan shoved his hands into his sweatshirt pocket. "She asked me to help clear brush once." "When?" 2 summers ago, maybe. "I was working." "You sell insurance from your kitchen." "I still work." "I didn't say you don't." "It sounded like you did." Claire was too tired to find the right edge of the conversation. Every subject seemed to contain another accusation. She had a whole plan, she said. Temporary care for people who can't keep their animals during emergencies. Then, why didn't she tell us? I don't know. Maybe because it wasn't a whole plan. People had keys. Plumbing had been assessed. They tested placements through foster homes. Ethan glanced at the kennel building. Its washed office windows caught the morning light. People can't afford a dog. They probably shouldn't have one. People can't afford foundation repairs. They probably shouldn't inherit a house. That's Lauren, not me. Exactly. He gave a short laugh. There she is. Who? The version of you who doesn't look like someone turned the sound down. Claire looked away. Ethan leaned against his truck. I know you think we didn't help. I know how often you came. I couldn't do the medical stuff. You didn't try. I came when she still knew me. Claire's head turned back. He was looking at the mud under his shoes. That isn't fair, she said. No, Ethan replied. It isn't. He got into his truck before she could decide which of them he meant. The mower started on the 4th attempt. Its blades made a knocking sound, but it moved. Claire spent an hour cutting a strip along the kennel building until the fuel ran out. The result was not pretty. The weeds lay flattened in uneven rows, exposing bottles, pieces of wire, and one sun-whitened dog toy shaped like a steak. Still, she could walk from the apartment to the rear door without mud soaking the cuffs of her jeans. That afternoon, Luis arrived with a toolbox and a woman named April Vance, a licensed electrician who spoke to the building in irritated clicks of her tongue. She removed the electrical panel cover, shone a flashlight inside, and asked who had allowed a squirrel to become a subcontractor. I didn't interview it, Claire said. Good, its work is terrible. April found chewed insulation, 2 overloaded circuits, and evidence of water near the panel. The office and selected corridor could be made safe without rewiring the entire building, but the laundry room required a separate circuit if they intended to use commercial equipment. When it returns, Claire said, April wrote the estimate on a carbon form. Claire had seen larger numbers on the insurance sheet. That did not make this one smaller. Second chance passage could cover the gate latches and divider wall. Luis had secured donated resting platforms from a boarding facility being renovated. The electrical deposit belonged to Claire. She paid it from the account where she had kept the last of her hotel savings. For 2 weeks, she moved between overnight shifts and Briarwood. Her body never quite learned which hours belonged to sleep. She dozed on the apartment couch while Luis repaired the exterior pipe for run 14 and woke convinced someone was knocking, only to discover Dennis pressure washing the corridor. The work acquired routines. Celia brought biscuits on Saturdays and fruit on Wednesdays because Renata had complained about the biscuits. Dennis told bad stories. April worked alone and listened to true crime podcasts at a volume that made every electrical repair sound like evidence disposal. Claire kept receipts in a red folder. She logged donated materials beside their estimated value because Renata's claim that labor was theirs to give had not cured Claire's need to count it. The missing washer forced them to take kennel towels to a laundromat 12 miles away. Claire and Celia sat beneath fluorescent lights while 4 industrial machines turned in a row. "You know," Celia said, feeding quarters into the last machine, "there are rescue groups with social lives. I don't believe you. Neither do I." The machines began their uneven thumping. Celia pulled a paperback from her bag. Claire opened the red folder and entered the cost of detergent. "You don't have to record that," Celia said. "I bought it. You're going to record my quarters too? How much? I refuse to participate in this illness." Claire wrote Celia, quarters, amount withheld. Celia leaned over to read it. "Your aunt would have liked that." Claire shut the folder. "Sorry," Celia said. "No, I just never know what to do when people say that. You don't have to do anything." The washer doors blurred the towels into pale circles. "What else did Sylvia say about May?" Claire asked. Celia considered. "That May once slept in the office for 3 nights with a dog who bit everybody else." "That sounds true." She said May believed fear was a kind of pain. "That also sounds true." "And she said May hid cash in the freezer because she didn't trust banks." Claire smiled. "That is absolutely true." Sylvia found $60 under a bag of peas. Celia returned to her book, leaving the smile undisturbed. At Briarwood, the divider wall went up across the corridor. It was plain plywood reinforced with welded wire, with a locking door in the center. The unsafe rear section disappeared behind it. The 6 selected runs received repaired latches, sealed concrete, clean bowls, and low platforms covered with washable pads. They were still old kennels. The chain-link fencing bore scratches no cleaner could remove. Sunlight entered unevenly. Run 16's gate needed to be lifted a 1/4 inch before it would latch. But when the insurance agent returned for photographs, she did not cover her nose. Approval arrived by email the following afternoon, conditional on the policy payment and a final operating inspection. Claire read it twice in the hotel's empty business center. Then she paid the premium. The account balance on the screen left her cold. Her phone rang before she could close the banking page. Renata said, "I have a possible first placement." Claire sat straighter. "The inspection isn't final. It's scheduled for Friday. This would be after that if we pass." "What kind of placement?" "A man named Wallace Green, 58. He needs to enter cardiac rehabilitation for 6 weeks, and he keeps postponing because of his beagle. 6 weeks isn't a trial. It's half the trial. He has a backup foster if Briarwood closes. Why hasn't the foster taken the dog now?" "She has 2 dogs already. One doesn't do well with older males." Claire looked at her hands resting beside the keyboard. The blisters had hardened into calluses. "What's the beagle's name?" "Roscoe." "How old?" 11. Medical needs? "Arthritis medication, twice daily. He howls when he's alone." "Of course he does." Renata waited. Claire pictured one old dog in the cleaned corridor, his voice striking every empty gate. "Bring Wallace out after the inspection," she said. "I want to meet both of them before I agree." "Fair. And this isn't a yes." "I know." Claire ended the call and sat in the business center until the monitor dimmed. It was not a yes, but it was the first answer that could become one. The inspector opened Run 16's gate, and it stuck halfway. Claire lifted it a 1/4 inch. The gate swung the rest of the way. "That needs adjustment," the inspector said. "It has character. It has a dragging hinge. Luis is replacing it." The inspector made a note on her clipboard. She had already tested the fire extinguishers, measured the divider door, photographed the drains, and asked Claire where she intended to isolate a sick animal. Claire had shown her run 12, the farthest from the office and closest to the side exit. "And you're limiting operations to this corridor?" the inspector asked. "6 runs. Nothing beyond the divider." "Correct. Paid boarding? Not yet." The inspector looked over the chain link, the fresh sealant, and the resting platforms. "Fix the hinge before you use 16. Send me a picture. You're approved for the other 5. Claire had imagined approval would feel like a door opening. Instead, it felt like someone had placed a heavier box in her arms. Louise fixed the hinge before lunch. At 2:17, an old Ford pickup stopped just inside Briarwood's gate. It remained there with the engine running. Renata checked her watch. "That's Wallace." Neither door opened. Claire wiped her palms on her jeans. "Does he know he has to get out?" "He's been having trouble with that part." They waited. The pickup's engine finally shut off. A thick-set man, wearing a brown work jacket, climbed from the driver's side. His gray hair had been cut close, except for one stubborn section at the back. He walked around the hood and opened the passenger door. Roscoe did not get out. Wallace leaned inside. "Come on, son." A long brown and white face appeared over the edge of the seat. Roscoe studied Briarwood with the grave suspicion of a dog who had spent 11 years seeing human plans fail. "He doesn't jump down anymore," Wallace said. Claire approached slowly. "Can you lift him?" "I can. I'm not supposed to." His right hand moved briefly to the center of his chest. Renata reached for the dog, but Wallace shook his head. "He doesn't know you." "He doesn't know Claire either," Renata said. "He might like her face." Claire looked at Roscoe. "That's a lot of pressure for both of us." Wallace smiled without showing teeth. He hooked a short blue leash to Roscoe's collar, and Claire placed one arm beneath the dog's chest and the other under his hips. Roscoe was heavier than he looked. He went stiff for 2 seconds, then allowed himself to be lowered. His nails clicked on the pavement. He sniffed Claire's shoes, Renata's shoes, the left front tire, and one dead weed. Then he pulled toward the open gate. "He knows the truck," Wallace said. "I figured." Inside the office, Wallace placed a grocery sack on the counter. It contained Roscoe's arthritis medication, 2 cans of food, a plastic container of dry kibble, and 3 typed pages of instructions. Renata picked up the first page. "This is thorough. My sister typed it. My handwriting looks like an EKG. Your sister is the backup contact? Donna. She's in Tulsa, or she'd take him herself." Claire opened the food container. "This won't last 6 weeks. I'll bring more. You'll be in rehabilitation. I can get it delivered. Second chance passage covers placement food," Renata said. Wallace's jaw shifted. "He doesn't eat the cheap stuff." "He won't have to," Claire said. "What brand?" He showed her on the bag. "Breakfast at 5:30, Wallace said. "Dinner at 4. Medicine goes in half a piece of cheese, but it has to be folded. If he sees the pill, he'll eat around it." "Walks?" "He goes out when he gets up, again around noon, then after supper. He can't go far." "Accidents?" "No." Roscoe urinated against the leg of the reception counter. Wallace closed his eyes. "He's making a liar out of me." "New place," Claire said. "It happens." She cleaned it while Renata completed the intake form with Wallace. There was no surrender language. Owner appeared at the top beside Wallace Green's name. Beneath it were the planned return date, veterinary contact, approved treatments, and Donna's number. Wallace read every line before signing. "He isn't a rescue dog," he said. "I know," Claire replied. "People hear Beagle and 11 years old. They start deciding things. No one is deciding anything for him except where he eats and when he goes outside. And if something happens to me..." Renata started to answer, but Claire spoke first. "Then we call Donna. If you're able to make decisions, we call you. The form says, what happens if you can't?" Wallace looked at her. "You read all that?" "Several times." He signed. Roscoe chose run 9 after rejecting 10 because a plastic bucket stood near the gate. He sniffed every corner, drank half a bowl of water, then turned toward Wallace. Wallace knelt slowly outside the gate. "This is just for a while," he told him. Roscoe put his nose through the chain link. Wallace's hand shook when he scratched between the dog's eyes. Claire looked away, giving him what privacy a kennel corridor could offer. "You should go before intake closes," Renata said gently. "I know what time it closes." You've postponed twice. 3 times. Wallace stood and nearly lost his balance. He caught the gate. Claire moved toward him, but he raised one hand. I'm fine. Nobody argued. He walked out without saying goodbye. Roscoe watched until he disappeared through the office. Then the beagle lifted his muzzle and released a howl so deep it seemed to rise from beneath the concrete. Wallace stopped outside. The howl came again. Keep walking, Renata murmured, though he could not hear her. The truck door opened, closed, and did not start. Roscoe clawed at the gate. Claire checked the latch, then went outside. Wallace sat behind the wheel with both hands locked around it. His forehead rested against his knuckles. She almost turned back. Instead, she remembered the faded plaid blanket in the rear of his truck. He rolled down the window when she approached. You forgot something, she said. That's his truck blanket. You want him to have it? Wallace looked toward the building. Roscoe's howls reached them through the walls. He thinks I left him. You did leave him. Wallace flinched. For 6 weeks, Claire added. So you can come back. Dogs don't know what 6 weeks is. No, they know whether the same people keep showing up. He looked at her then. Claire folded the blanket over one arm. He will still belong to you when you come back. I can promise that part. What if he hates it? Then I'll tell you. What if you hate rehabilitation? I already do. You haven't started. I'm ahead of schedule. Claire handed the blanket through the window. Wallace held it for several seconds before giving it back. He sleeps on the left side. Left side of what? Anything. The truck started. Wallace drove through the gate without looking in the mirror. Roscoe howled for 43 minutes. Claire knew because she checked the office clock every time she resisted entering the run. Renata sat on the floor outside run 9, turned sideways to appear less threatening. She tossed a piece of kibble through the fencing. Roscoe ignored it. He'll exhaust himself, Renata said. That sounds healthy. He's safe. He doesn't know that. He will. At the 1-hour mark, Roscoe stopped howling and began producing a soft, repetitive moan. Claire placed Wallace's blanket on the platform. Roscoe waited until she stepped away, then dragged it onto the concrete and lay with his head pressed to one folded corner. He refused dinner. You two deserve each other, Renata said. Claire folded the next piece so thoroughly it resembled a small dairy dumpling. Roscoe swallowed it. At 6, Renata went home. At 7, Luis came by to check Run 16's gate and remained 10 minutes longer than necessary. At 8, Celia delivered a radio. Does he like music? Claire asked. He's a beagle. His standards can't be worse than Dennis's. They tried a country station, talk radio, and classical music. Roscoe resumed howling during a commercial for replacement windows. Celia left the radio tuned to a baseball discussion and went home. At 10, Claire turned off the kennel lights. Roscoe barked the moment she entered the caretaker apartment. She lasted 12 minutes. Back in the corridor, she sat outside Run 9 with her hotel employee handbook. Roscoe paced. Claire read the section on emergency evacuation aloud. Guests requiring assistance should be directed to the eastern stairwell. Do not use elevators during a fire. Employees should remain calm. Roscoe sneezed. Management recognizes that emergencies may produce confusion. That's surprisingly honest. He circled twice on the blanket. Claire continued reading until his breathing slowed. When she stood, one eye opened. I live 30 yards away, she told him. You're being unreasonable. His eye closed. At 3 in the morning, he began howling again. At 5:20, he ate breakfast after Claire warmed his canned food and mixed in a spoonful of broth. At 5:40, he went outside, sniffed every fence post in the exercise yard, and tried to follow a scent beneath the gate. Claire slept from 6:30 until 8, then took him out again because he stood with his nose pressed to the run latch. The second night was worse. A passing freight train set him off at midnight. He vomited on Wallace's blanket at 1. Claire carried the blanket to the apartment sink, discovered it was too large, and drove to the laundromat with it sealed in a trash bag. The commercial washer at Briarwood would have handled it in 20 minutes. She sent Ethan a photograph of the empty hookups. He replied, "What am I looking at? Your inheritance." He did not answer. On the 3rd morning, Wallace called. "How is he?" Claire looked through the office window. Roscoe was asleep in a patch of sunlight, one front paw hanging off the platform. He's adjusting. That means bad. It means he howls at night, refuses dry food, and can find a pill inside any amount of cheese. I told you that. You undersold him. Did he throw up? Once. Was it yellow? Mostly. Empty stomach. Give him 2 crackers before bed. Claire wrote it down. How are you? She asked. I walked 4 minutes on a treadmill while a woman named Patrice told me not to insult the equipment. Did you insult it? It started it. Roscoe woke and lifted his head. Hold on, Claire said. She carried the phone into the corridor but stopped several feet from run 9. Wallace is on the phone. That's not going to help. You called to hear him. I called to hear about him. Roscoe stared at the phone. Wallace said his name. The dog's tail struck the platform once. Then again. He did not howl. He stood, walked to the gate, and pressed his nose through the chain link. Wallace went quiet. Keep talking, Claire said. About what? Anything. Wallace described the terrible eggs at the rehabilitation center. He complained about Patrice, the treadmill, and a man in the next room who snored like a chainsaw. Roscoe listened until his tail stopped moving, then lay down beside the gate. After the call, Claire gave him 2 crackers. That night, he slept until 4. By the end of the first week, Roscoe knew the route to the exercise yard and the sound of Claire opening the medication bottle. He still checked every arriving vehicle. He still refused to sleep unless Wallace's blanket was folded on the left side of the platform. But when Claire entered the corridor, his tail began striking the chain link before she reached run 9. On Friday, Renata stood beside her, watching him wait for breakfast. 1 run, Claire said. 1 stubborn old dog, and I haven't slept properly in 7 days. We can pause new placements. Claire spooned warm food into Roscoe's bowl. He sat without being asked. She thought of Wallace walking 4 minutes on a machine he hated because this animal had somewhere to wait for him. How many calls are you holding? She asked. Renata did not pretend to misunderstand. 3, she said. Tell me about them. Renata opened her tablet. First is a woman having joint replacement surgery. Her terrier can stay with her neighbor for 2 weeks, but the neighbor can't manage the full recovery period. How long? 5 weeks. Behavior? Good with people. Bad with every living thing under 20 pounds. Roscoe is over 20 pounds. Roscoe would disagree. Claire glanced toward run 9. He was scraping his bowl across the concrete in pursuit of gravy. Next, a man entering an inpatient treatment program. 60-day placement, young shepherd mix, high energy. Foster assessment says the dog clears a 6-foot fence. Our fence is 6 feet. I know. No? Renata made a note without arguing. That fast? She asked. I live 30 yards from a road. We don't have covered runs, and half the exterior fence is held together by weeds. That is the correct answer. It feels terrible. Correct answers do that sometimes. Claire pointed at the tablet. 3rd, Tasha Bell. 36. She's moving into confidential emergency housing on Monday. No pets allowed for the first 3 weeks. After that, they expect to place her in an apartment where she can keep her dog. What kind? Brindle mix, Birdie. About 4 years old. Medical? None. She's frightened of loud voices and men wearing hats. Claire looked down the corridor, mentally placing an animal she had never seen. Run 12 was farthest from the office traffic. Dennis always wore a baseball cap. Luis wore one when it rained. Has she bitten anyone? No bites. She hides. Other dogs? She passed the Foster test with a neutral dog. We'd keep an empty run between her and Roscoe. That gives us 2 dogs and 6 runs. We're not paid by occupancy. We're not paid at all. Also true. Claire watched Roscoe lick the last trace of food from the bowl. Set up a meeting. Tasha arrived Sunday afternoon in a dented hatchback packed to the roof with black trash bags. Birdie crouched on the passenger side floor and refused to come out. Tasha wore gray sweatpants, an oversized denim jacket, and sunglasses despite the overcast sky. She had pulled her hair into a tight knot that seemed to hurt. She gets nervous, she said. So do I, Claire replied. Tasha lowered the sunglasses enough to look at her. Claire nodded toward the open office door. We can do the paperwork first. Let her sit. Renata took Tasha inside. Claire remained near the car, but did not approach it. Birdie's eyes followed every movement through the windshield. After 10 minutes, Tasha returned with a soft harness. She opened the passenger door, sat sideways on the pavement, and waited. You don't have to watch, she told Claire. I'm not in a hurry. I am. The words came out sharp. Tasha immediately looked away. Claire leaned against the kennel wall. Then, we'll be in a hurry, quietly. Birdie's front paws appeared first. Her body followed low to the ground, brindle coat trembling along the ribs. She pressed herself against Tasha's legs. Tasha attached the leash. "She sleeps under blankets," she said. "Not on top. Under. We have blankets. She doesn't like stainless steel bowls. We have plastic. She won't go to the bathroom if somebody's looking." "I respect that." Tasha's mouth moved before she could stop it, almost a smile. They walked Birdie into run 12. Roscoe stood at his gate and sniffed noisily. Birdie froze. "Roscoe," Claire said. The beagle looked at her. "Be less." Roscoe sneezed and returned to his platform. Birdie entered the run after Tasha crawled halfway inside with her. She inspected the plastic bowl, the resting platform, and the blanket arranged like a nest. Then she turned toward the open gate. Tasha sat with her for 20 minutes. When she finally came out, Birdie remained beneath the blanket with only her nose visible. Tasha closed the gate herself and tested the latch 3 times. "I can't call from where I'll be staying," she said. "They take phones for the first few days. Renata has the approved contact. Her name's Joelle. She'll know where I am." "All right." If Birdie stops eating, she likes scrambled eggs. Claire thought about the hotel pay, the property taxes, and the cost of dog-safe cleaning chemicals. "We can manage eggs. I'll pay you back. It's covered." "By who?" "The group. That means somebody pays." "Yes." Tasha's expression hardened. "I'm not trying to dump her. I know. You don't." Claire took the intake form from the office counter and showed her the top line. "Owner, Tasha Bell." "I know what the word means," Claire said. Tasha stared at her own name. Outside, a car door slammed. Birdie flinched beneath the blanket but did not come out. "I'll be back in 3 weeks," Tasha said. "We'll be here." Tasha left without putting on her sunglasses. Birdie refused dinner, then ate scrambled eggs at 9 that night. She did not howl. She made no sound at all, which unsettled Claire more. Roscoe paced because Birdie would not acknowledge him. He carried Wallace's blanket to the right side of his platform, appeared to realize what he had done, and dragged it back to the left. By the 4th morning, Birdie emerged from beneath her blanket when Claire entered. By the 6th, she accepted a piece of kibble from Claire's open palm. Luis stopped wearing his rain cap inside the building. Dennis left his baseball cap on the office counter, then complained that his head was cold. The routines multiplied: medication at 5:30, breakfast at 6, separate yard times. Laundry loads logged on Celia's forbidden quarters page. Evening checks before Claire left for the hotel, then midnight checks when she returned during her break, if Dale agreed to cover the desk. She began keeping spare clothes at both places because something was always wet, muddy, or decorated with dog hair. Second Chance Passage posted one photograph after Claire approved it. The image showed Roscoe's nose through the chain link and Birdie's paw resting on a clean blanket. No people, no owner names, no reference to Claire's grief. "Briarwood's 6-run trial is open," the caption read. Temporary care. So love doesn't have to become surrender. The post produced 4 donated bags of food, $37, and a box containing 12 identical rubber chickens. Roscoe was terrified of the chickens. Birdie adored them. Lauren called before noon. "You opened it. We have 2 dogs. The rescue group put it online. I approved the post. They use Briarwood's name. That is the name of the property. Aunt Sylvia's business name, which came with the property." Lauren was silent for a beat. "You sound like a lawyer?" "I sound tired." "Aunt Pauline sent me the link and asked whether Sylvia had planned this." "What did you tell her?" "That I didn't know." "That was honest. She thinks you do know. I know more than I did last week. And now people are donating money?" $37. "That isn't the point. It purchased dog food. That feels like the point." Lauren exhaled. "Ethan says the rescue group is using you to get a free facility. Ethan is using my generator to get free garage decor. You always do that." "Do what?" "Make a joke right before I say something you don't want to hear. That's Ethan. You learned it from him." Claire looked through the office doorway. Birdie was lying at the front of her run instead of hiding beneath the blanket. Roscoe slept with one ear flipped inside out. "What do you want me to hear?" Claire asked. Lauren's voice softened. "That it's okay if you're doing this because you miss her. It's also okay to stop before you build your whole life around something she wanted." Claire pressed the phone harder to her ear. "I already built my life around what she needed," she said. "And you hated us for not doing the same. I didn't hate you. You still might. The call ended without either of them saying goodbye. Lauren arrived at Briarwood an hour later. She carried a slow cooker in both arms. "What is that?" Claire asked. "The chili. You brought the whole pot?" "You didn't come get it. I was busy, I noticed." Lauren took 3 steps inside the office and stopped when Roscoe barked. Birdie vanished beneath her blanket. "Sorry," Lauren said automatically. "They're dogs. I wasn't apologizing to you." She set the slow cooker on the counter near May's travel mug and the rubber ball. Her gaze moved across them, then settled on the old photograph behind the counter. "You cleaned this. 14 people cleaned this. It looks like it used to." "No, it doesn't." Lauren stepped into the corridor. Roscoe stood at his gate, tail moving. She approached him carefully. "Can I?" Claire handed her a biscuit. Lauren held it through the chain link. Roscoe took it with great seriousness. "What's his story?" she asked. "His owner is in cardiac rehabilitation, so he isn't abandoned. That's the idea." Lauren looked toward Run 12. "And that one?" "Her owner is in temporary housing." Birdie's nose appeared from beneath the blanket. Lauren lowered herself into a crouch but did not move closer. She stayed there until Birdie's whole face emerged. "She's pretty," Lauren whispered. Birdie watched her. "Her name is Birdie," Claire said. Lauren sat back on her heels. "Sylvia would have liked her." "You don't know that." The words came too quickly. Lauren rose. "No." "Apparently I don't know much." She walked out of the corridor, leaving the chili behind. Claire followed her to the yard. "Lauren." Her cousin turned beside the glossy black SUV. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. I don't know what Sylvia would have thought either. But you have all these people telling you." Claire had no answer. Lauren opened the car door. "Aunt Pauline thinks Sylvia left you the kennel because you talked her into it. That's ridiculous. I told her that." "Did Ethan?" Lauren's expression supplied the answer. "He's upset about the retirement account," she said. "There was less than he expected. And that's my fault? No. But?" "There's no but. There's always a but." Lauren got into the SUV. "Return the pot whenever." The chili fed Claire for 4 nights. On the 5th, a windstorm knocked out power across the northern end of the county. The kennel went black at 8:13. Birdie began barking for the first time since she arrived. Roscoe answered with a howl. Claire found a flashlight and called the utility company. The recording estimated restoration between midnight and 3. The apartment heater fell silent. The kennel's ventilation fans stopped. She texted Ethan. "I need the generator back tonight." No answer appeared. Claire brought every spare blanket into the corridor and closed the high windows. She placed the battery radio between the 2 occupied runs and sat on the concrete while the temperature slowly dropped. At 11:40, her phone lit up. For one hopeful second, she expected Ethan. It was Wallace. "Can Roscoe hear storms over there?" Claire looked at the old beagle asleep, with his nose buried in the blanket Wallace had given him. "Not tonight," she wrote. "He's got company." Power returned at 1:50 in the morning. The fluorescent lights flashed on all at once. Birdie startled awake and barked. Roscoe opened one eye, decided electricity did not deserve a full response, and went back to sleep. Claire remained on the concrete between their runs until the ventilation fans settled into a steady hum. Her back had stiffened against the wall. When she stood, both knees popped. Ethan still had not answered. At 8:30, while Claire was measuring food into Roscoe's bowl, his reply appeared. "Sorry." Phone was charging in the kitchen. "Everything okay?" She called him. He answered with a cautious, "Morning." "I needed the generator." "I saw. 4 hours ago would have been useful." "I was asleep, Claire. You work from home. I'm still allowed unconsciousness. Bring it back today. It has old fuel in it. I told you it needs to be drained. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't had time. You had time to take it. Why do you need an emergency generator for 2 dogs? She stopped with the scoop inside the food bin. "Listen to yourself. I'm asking a reasonable question. The power went out. It came back. That's how outages work. You made the decision to house animals. Did the rescue group not have a backup plan? Yes. The generator you stole. I didn't steal it. What do you call taking something that isn't yours? An inheritance dispute. There isn't a dispute. There's you, keeping my equipment because the money Sylvia left you wasn't enough." Silence held for 2 seconds. "Lauren told you," Ethan said. She didn't give me numbers. Then maybe don't talk about it. Maybe don't punish me for it. I'm not punishing you. I'm trying to keep all three of us from acting like the first piece of paper we read after a funeral settled every question. It did settle the ownership question. Funny how you trust the will when it gives you something. I trust it when it gives you something too. Take your car. Take your account. Leave my washer alone. Roscoe nudged his empty bowl across the floor. Ethan exhaled into the phone. You sound exactly like her. Claire hung up. Her hands shook as she finished measuring Roscoe's breakfast. He watched the scoop closely, unwilling to let a family dispute interfere with food. Bertie ate beneath her blanket. The bowl slowly disappeared, pulled backward into the fabric, as if consumed by a small brindle cave. The absurdity steadied Claire more than breathing exercises would have. At noon, Luis installed 2 battery-powered emergency lights in the corridor. Second Chance Passage had purchased them from the $37 in donations and added another $23 from its general supply fund. We're down $6 on the chickens, Claire said. Celia called them essential enrichment. Roscoe won't walk past the box. Enrichment is personal. Luis pressed the test button. The lights glowed dimly. They'll last 5 hours, he said, and after that, flashlights, blankets, complaining. We tested that system last night. How'd it perform? Complaining exceeded expectations. He showed her how to replace the batteries, then left 1 extra pack in the office. When Tasha returned for Bertie, she arrived in the same hatchback with only 2 trash bags in the rear instead of an entire life piled to the roof. Claire recognized her before Bertie did. Tasha stood outside Run 12 wearing clean jeans, a green sweater, and the same sunglasses. Bertie remained beneath her blanket, nose visible. "Hey girl," Tasha whispered. The nose moved. Bertie crawled out slowly. For a moment, she stared as if Tasha were an image she did not trust. Then her whole body changed. Her ears folded back. Her tail struck the gate. She made a high sound Claire had never heard from her and began turning frantic circles inside the run. Tasha dropped to her knees. Claire opened the gate. Bertie launched into Tasha's chest hard enough to knock her backward. Tasha laughed from the concrete while the dog climbed across her, licking her chin, sunglasses, and hair. "All right," Tasha said, laughing and crying at once. "All right, I came back." Bertie seemed determined to verify this with every part of her nose. Claire moved away to give them room. Tasha's new apartment was small, she explained later in the office, but the landlord had approved Bertie. She had a temporary job at a warehouse and an interview at a dental office the next week. Joelle had driven her past the apartment twice before she believed it was real. "I know you said the group covered everything," Tasha said. She placed a folded $20 bill on the counter. Claire pushed it back. "Keep it. I want to pay something. Then buy Bertie a stainless steel bowl." Tasha gave her a look. "Bad joke. I want the next person's dog to have eggs." Claire stopped pushing the bill. "All right," she said. "Egg money." Tasha tucked Bertie's blanket beneath one arm and hooked the leash to her harness. Bertie pulled toward the office door, then turned and trotted back to Claire. She sniffed Claire's knee. That was all. Then she followed Tasha outside. Claire watched the hatchback leave through the gate. The empty Run 12 looked wrong in a new way. Not abandoned, completed. Renata came in carrying the red expense folder. "You want to see something unpleasant?" she asked. "I've met our insurance bill. This is more organized." They sat at the counter while Renata laid out the first month's operating costs. Food donations had covered most meals. Veterinary expenses were attached to individual placement funds. But utilities, laundry, cleaning supplies, waste removal, and insurance had consumed more than the group could continue paying without new support. Second Chance Passage could contribute a fixed monthly amount during the trial. It was not enough to pay Claire. "I wasn't expecting a salary," Claire said. "You should. For 2 dogs, for being on call every hour of the day. I work at the hotel. That's my concern. I sleep. That's everyone's concern." Claire turned the expense sheet toward herself. Sylvia's plan used the paid boarding on the front wing, which currently has a squirrel electrician. April evicted him. The wiring is still bad, among other things. They walked the front wing that afternoon. 8 additional runs faced a separate exercise yard. 2 gates were missing. One wall showed dark water damage near the floor. The drains had not been assessed, and the ceiling bowed above Run 4. Claire stood in the center aisle with her arms folded. "How much?" We don't know. I hate that answer. You'll hate the answer after it too. A limited paid operation did not require restoring every run, Renata explained. 3 safe boarding runs could offset utilities during the trial. More could come later if the model worked. If, Claire said. If, Renata agreed. Claire touched the wall beneath the water stain. It felt dry. Her phone rang. Lauren's name appeared. I need you to come to the house, Lauren said when Claire answered. Why? Ethan's here. That isn't a selling point. We need to talk about the properties. Claire looked at Renata. I have dogs. You have 1 dog. News traveled quickly through the family. I'll come after dinner. 6, 7. Lauren hung up before agreeing. The ranch house smelled of lemon cleaner and damp earth. A section of carpet had been pulled back near the rear bedroom, exposing a crack where the wall met the floor. 2 foundation estimates lay on the dining room table beside the slow cooker's empty lid. You still have the pot, Lauren said. You told me to return it whenever. I wasn't accusing you. It sounded like you were. Ethan sat at the table, turning Sylvia's enamel mug between his hands. Lauren snatched it away and placed it near the sink. Can we last 5 minutes? She asked. Depends what we're doing, Claire said. Lauren pushed an estimate across the table. The repair cost was higher than Claire had expected. I'm sorry, she said. I don't need sympathy. I need to decide whether to stabilize it now or wait. What does this have to do with Briarwood? Ethan leaned back. The estate wasn't divided fairly. The estate was divided how Sylvia wanted, based on values that weren't accurate. You inherited cash. A lot less cash than the figure in the old statement. Medical care costs money. I know that. I'm not blaming her for getting sick. Claire waited. Ethan rubbed his thumb along a scratch in the tabletop. The kennel has 11 acres. You called it a dog dump. It is a dog dump on 11 acres. Lauren sat opposite Claire. A real estate agent says it could sell if you priced it as land. Which agent? Does that matter? The one who called me Monday? Lauren looked at Ethan. Claire understood. You gave him my number. We asked for an opinion, Ethan said. You asked him to pressure me. He said you canceled the appointment. That was private. He didn't reveal your medical records. Lauren placed both hands flat on the table. No one is asking you to give us the kennel. It's coming. We're asking whether selling it and adjusting the division might solve 3 problems. Name mine. You're broke. Good. That one was easy. You're working nights and sleeping in an unheated apartment. It's heated. Barely. Ethan said, the rescue group gets free use of the property. You get all the liability, and somehow this is a victory. 4 weeks ago, you said the property was worthless. I was joking. You loaded equipment while you joked. We could sell the land, Lauren said. Pay the foundation work, replace some of what Ethan expected. Leave enough for you to get an apartment and start over. Claire looked between them. Rebalance, she said. Lauren's shoulders lowered slightly. Yes, you each keep what Sylvia left you, and mine gets sold for everybody. That isn't how I meant it. It's exactly how you meant it. Ethan stood. Fine, keep the kennel. But stop acting like you're the only one who lost something. Claire's chair scraped against the floor as she rose. Lauren followed her to the front door. You can think about it. I have. For 30 seconds. For 18 months. That doesn't even make sense. Claire turned. You both decided I was getting something for caring for her. Free rent, the valuable land, whatever story makes it even. Maybe Sylvia left me Briarwood because she knew I'd stay. Maybe she left it because she had no one else. I don't know. But you don't get to laugh when it looks worthless and divide it when it doesn't. She left the empty slow cooker on the porch between them. Back at Briarwood, one emergency light glowed over Roscoe's run. The old beagle was asleep on the left side of his platform. Renata had left a new note on the whiteboard. Run 12 clean. Ready when needed. Claire erased it. Then she wrote, Run 12 open. No rush. Renata read the whiteboard the next morning and changed nothing. She placed a new intake folder beneath it, then went to check Roscoe's medication log. You're not going to ask, Claire said. About Run 12? Yes, it's open. No rush. I can read. That has never prevented you from talking. Renata glanced over her shoulder. The terrier's neighbor can keep her another week. The shepherd mix found a foster with a covered yard. We have no emergency placement ready today. Claire suspected Renata was withholding at least one appeal out of kindness and resented being grateful for it. Roscoe's return date appeared in red on the office calendar. Wallace called every evening now, usually after walking the rehabilitation center's longest corridor. He reported his distance as if Claire were keeping an official record. 14 minutes without sitting down, he said one night. Patrice impressed? Patrice doesn't experience joy. In the kennel corridor, Roscoe rolled onto his back and kicked one hind leg at the air. Roscoe walked to the far fence twice, Claire said. That fence is 40 feet away. He took the scenic route. Is he limping? Only when he remembers it, gets sympathy. That's my boy. Wallace had begun asking fewer times whether Roscoe was eating. He asked what the dog had done. The difference was small enough that Claire did not mention it. She did not mention that she had started dreading the day Roscoe left. The front wing proved better than its ceiling suggested and worse than its walls promised. The dark stain came from the broken gutter, not an active leak. The bowed panel concealed dry framing. 3 drains worked. A 4th released an odor that sent Dennis outside, swearing he had briefly seen the face of God. Luis capped that one. They chose 3 runs nearest the separate yard. One received a donated gate. Another needed wire repairs. The 3rd was usable after cleaning, though its door bore deep tooth marks at the bottom. Claire kept the marks. Character? April asked. Dragging hinges have character. Those are history. April stared at her. You have been around Luis too long. The cost to open 3 paid runs was not small, but it was no longer impossible. Claire used 2 hotel paychecks for materials. Second Chance Passage paid for the divider door between the boarding section and the bridge corridor. The labor remained donated, logged by Claire, despite Celia's campaign, to steal the red folder and bury it. Renata helped set boarding rates based on local kennels. Claire argued that Briarwood's worn concrete and scratched gates did not justify the average price. People aren't paying for decorative concrete, Renata said. They're paying for reliable care. We haven't proven reliable care. Wallace would disagree. Wallace hasn't seen the bill. The first reservation came through Celia, whose friend needed weekend care for a yellow Labrador named Duke. The friend paid a deposit online. Claire stared at the transaction on Renata's tablet. $30, she said. That is generally how deposits work. We made money. No, we received money. Duke will consume part of it and create laundry. He's a Labrador. He'll create weather. Renata smiled. You're learning? Second Chance posted a plain announcement about limited paid boarding. No dramatic story. No photograph of Claire. The caption explained that each paid stay supported temporary care for an animal whose owner was in crisis. Aunt Pauline shared it to the family group with the message, Sylvia would be so proud. Lauren reacted with a heart. Ethan reacted with a question mark. Claire muted the conversation. On Roscoe's final morning, she washed his bowls twice. She folded Wallace's plaid blanket and placed it on the platform, then unfolded it because Roscoe was still using it. He isn't leaving until 4, Renata said. I know. You have cleaned his leash. It was dirty. It's a blue nylon leash. Its highest aspiration is less dirty. Claire hung it on the run door. Don't you have an organization to direct? I'm enjoying this. At 3:40, Ethan's pickup entered the yard. Claire watched from the office window as he parked near the caretaker apartment. He climbed out carrying no generator, washer, or useful object of any kind. What do you want? She asked when he came inside. Nice to see you too. Roscoe barked from the corridor. Ethan leaned sideways to look past her. Is that the same one? Yes. You still only have one dog? Bertie went home. So, this is a business with one customer. He isn't a customer. His placement was covered by Second Chance. And the paid boarding starts Friday. Ethan nodded at the small sign on the counter listing rates. That's why I'm here. Are you boarding yourself? I want to know what the arrangement is. No, you want to know if money is moving. Money is always moving, especially when people say it isn't about money. Claire closed the red folder. The group pays placement costs. Paid boarding covers part of the building's expenses. And you? I work at the hotel, so they get a kennel for free and you work 2 jobs to keep it open. We had this conversation. No, Lauren had this conversation. I was mostly angry about the will. Mostly? He put both hands on the counter. If the boarding side makes a profit, does that belong to you or the rescue group? The kennel. That isn't a person. It pays kennel bills. And if there's something left? Claire laughed. I'll alert you if we enter that fictional situation. I'm asking because the washer and generator have value. they have a use. And that use benefits an organization that didn't inherit them. Their use benefits my property. You sound rehearsed. I've had 6 weeks. Outside, a vehicle turned into the gate. Roscoe began barking before it cleared the sign. Not the full-throated warning he gave delivery drivers. This bark broke high in the middle. He ran to the front of his run, then back to the rear, nails skidding on concrete. Claire looked through the window. Wallace's Ford rolled toward the building. Roscoe threw his head back and howled. Ethan stepped away from the counter. What's wrong with him? Nothing. Claire grabbed the clean blue leash and went into the corridor. Roscoe bounced against the gate. Don't make me regret every kind thing I've said about you. His entire body trembled. When the Ford's door closed outside, he scratched once at the chain link and gave a sound halfway between a bark and a cry. Wallace appeared in the office doorway. He looked smaller than Claire remembered, or perhaps simply less burdened by the work jacket he had worn on intake day. He wore a navy windbreaker and new walking shoes. His face had color in it. Roscoe went silent. For 1 second, dog and man stared at each other across the corridor. Then Roscoe's tail struck the gate so hard, the latch rattled. Wallace laughed. The sound folded in the middle. Hey, son. Claire opened the gate. Roscoe charged past her. Wallace had started lowering himself carefully, one hand on his thigh, but the dog reached him first. Roscoe pushed his head beneath Wallace's arm and climbed into his lap as Wallace sank onto the wet concrete. All right, Wallace said. Roscoe licked his chin. All right, I'm here. Wallace held the dog with both arms, his face pressed into the loose skin at Roscoe's neck. The beagle's tail slapped water from the freshly rinsed floor across Wallace's new shoes. Ethan stood behind Claire. He said nothing. Wallace remained on the concrete until Roscoe stopped climbing over him and began investigating his pockets. Then Claire helped Wallace stand while Renata brought the release folder. 16 minutes yesterday, Wallace told Claire. Patrice impressed? She wrote it down. That's practically a love letter. Roscoe leaned against Wallace's leg as they completed the paperwork in the office. Wallace signed the return acknowledgement and checked every medication bottle. He inspected the remaining food and frowned. He gained weight. 4 ounces. I can see it. He manipulated multiple adults. That's a skill. Wallace tried to hand Claire an envelope. She opened it enough to see cash. No, for the extra food. Covered. For the laundry. Covered. For sitting with him all night. Claire looked toward Ethan. His eyes had moved to the cracked green linoleum. Buy yourself decent eggs, she told Wallace. That woman came back for her dog? She did. Wallace tucked the envelope into the red folder while Claire was not looking. She discovered it after his truck was gone. Roscoe rode in the passenger seat, nose pressed to the window. The Ford paused at the gate. Wallace lifted one hand. Claire lifted hers. Then they were gone. Run 9 still held the shape of Roscoe's blanket in the dust-free space on the platform. Ethan stood in the corridor entrance. So they all go home? He asked. That's the point. Then why call it rescue? Because surrender isn't always what people want. Sometimes it's what happens when there's nowhere else. He walked to Run 9 and touched the gate Roscoe had rattled. Sylvia invited me to 2 meetings, he said. Claire waited. One was at that diner on Route 6, the one with the terrible pie. You said she asked you to clear brush. She did that too. What meetings? I didn't really read the emails. Something about temporary placements. Volunteer schedules. I assumed it was rescue group stuff. It was. I thought she wanted me to haul cages and listen to strangers congratulate each other for caring more than everybody else. So, you didn't go? No. Did Lauren? She said Sylvia was always starting projects. Claire looked through the office window at the empty yard. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me about the rescue group? I didn't know. I didn't think the meetings mattered. They mattered to her. I know that now. There was no defense in his voice, but not quite an apology either. Ethan lifted the latch on Run 9 and closed it again. When she left you this place, he said, I thought she was taking one last shot at all of us, by punishing me, by making me look at what I didn't want. You laughed. So did Lauren. That doesn't answer anything. He rubbed the back of his neck. You got the part of her life that had work attached. We got things you could put numbers on. Laughing made that feel like winning. Claire looked at him. He attempted a smile and abandoned it. I'm not saying she planned it that way, he added. She wasn't that poetic. She could be. Not with me. Outside, Duke arrived for his paid weekend stay with a red duffel bag, 2 food containers, and a man who apologized 5 times for being early. Ethan stepped aside while Claire conducted the intake. Duke entered the front wing happily, drank from his bowl, and immediately sat in it. He does that when he's excited, his owner explained. Good to know, Claire said. Ethan watched her take feeding instructions, veterinary information, and the emergency contact. He watched Renata process the remaining payment. When Duke's owner left, Ethan nodded toward the tablet. How much? 90 for the weekend, Claire said. That's it? That's it. He stared at Duke, who was now licking water from his own chest. I was expecting more. So was Sylvia's retirement account. He winced. I deserved that. Yes. Ethan headed toward his truck. At the office door, he looked back. I'll talk to Cal's brother. You aren't speaking. I can become mature for 20 minutes. Bring the washer? He nodded. And the generator. His nod was less certain. After he left, Claire carried Wallace's envelope to the counter. It contained $80 and a note written in uneven block letters. For the next dog who needs to wait. She placed it in the red folder beneath Tasha's 20. Then she went back to Run 9, removed Roscoe's name card, and cleaned the gate. The corridor sounded too quiet without him. From the front wing came a splash, followed by Duke shaking water against every available surface. Claire picked up the mop. Duke's weekend paid most of Briarwood's electric bill and added 7 loads to the laundry problem. He sat in his water bowl 6 times, Claire told his owner. He likes to stay hydrated. He carried it onto the platform. He's innovative. Duke went home happy, damp, and tired. His owner booked another weekend before leaving the parking lot. The next paid reservation brought 2 elderly poodles with matching pink beds and 12 pages of feeding instructions. After that came a nervous cattle dog, whose owner paid for a private yard period. Then a massive black mutt named Reverend, who slept with all 4 legs pointing straight into the air. The deposits purchased cleaning supplies. The final payments kept the lights on. There was never as much left as Claire hoped, but for the first time, the numbers in the red folder moved in both directions. Run 12 did not stay open for long. The terrier whose owner was recovering from joint replacement surgery arrived after exhausting her stay with the neighbor. She hated Roscoe on sight, even though Roscoe had already gone home, and the offense was based entirely on his remaining smell. She's committed, Celia said, as the terrier growled at his old gate. Some grudges don't require a person to be present, Claire replied. Celia looked toward the office. Your family should put that on a plaque. Spring softened Briarwood by degrees. Rain turned the red dirt to mud, then grass appeared through it. The riding mower continued knocking, but cut the exercise yards if Claire took turns slowly. Luis repaired the hanging gutter using donated brackets. April returned to wire 2 more runs in the paid wing and claimed she found no evidence that the squirrel had filed an appeal. By the time the 90-day trial ended, 9 runs were operating, 6 bridge placements, and 3 paid. The back wing remained shut behind the divider. The damaged front runs were opened one at a time, only after their gates, drains, and walls passed the same checks as the first 6. Nobody held a ceremony for the end of the trial. Renata stood in the office with the calendar turned toward her and tapped the date. You know what today is? Thursday. You're a pleasure to manage. You don't manage me. That should be printed above your door. Claire knew exactly what day it was. She had slept badly, then worked an overnight shift in which a guest demanded a refund because another guest had coughed in the elevator. The agreement says 90 days, Renata said. The dogs don't. That isn't an answer. We have active placements. Every one of them has a backup. You can still stop. Claire sorted invoices into the red folder. Are you trying to make me stop? I'm trying to hear you choose. The office fan clicked every time it turned left. Outside, Dennis was teaching a recently arrived spaniel that the hose was not an enemy. The spaniel remained unconvinced. I'm not selling, Claire said. That's one choice. I'm not closing. That's another. I'm also not naming it Sylvia's Bridge House. Luis called from the corridor. Still hurts. You'll recover, Claire called back. Renata sat on the edge of the counter. Then we need a longer agreement. Operating responsibilities, expenses, placement limits. What happens when the group and the property owner disagree? Who writes it? Someone who enjoys forms more than either of us. Does that person exist? Unfortunately. Claire closed the folder. The paid wing stays mine. The entire property stays yours. Bridge placement decisions are shared. Yes. No dog arrives because someone tells a sad enough story on the phone. Correct. And no more than 4 active bridge placements unless I agree. Renata hesitated. That was a long pause. Emergencies don't always arrive one at a time. Neither do nervous breakdowns. 4 under normal operations, Renata said. Exceptions by mutual agreement. Write it that way. Renata looked at her for another second. You've chosen? I thought that was obvious. It was. I wanted you to say it. Claire reopened the folder. Now I'm reconsidering out of spite. But she wrote continue beneath the date on the calendar. The system worked well enough to reveal where it did not. Claire could handle medications, feeding schedules, intakes, cleaning, the paid reservations, and her hotel shifts individually. Together, they formed a machine designed to remove sleep from her life. She began losing ordinary objects. She put the office phone in the refrigerator. She drove to the river bend wearing 2 different shoes. One morning, she found the kennel keys in the bag of dry food and had no memory of placing them there. Then she slept through the 5:30 medication alarm. Renata found her at 6:20, still dressed in her hotel uniform on the caretaker couch. Claire woke to pounding at the door and sat up so fast the room tilted. The dogs, she said. Fed, Renata answered through the door. Medication given and logged. Claire opened it. Her blouse was wrinkled, one cheek marked by the couch seam. How did you get into the kennel? The emergency key you required us to keep. I was coming. You were unconscious. I got home at 4. That supports my case. I don't remember there being a case. Renata entered without being invited and opened the cabinet above the sink. Coffee? I know how to make coffee. You also know how to set an alarm. Claire stood. Get out. Renata closed the cabinet. The expression on her face was not hurt. That was somehow worse. I'm not Sylvia, Claire said. I know. I don't need you watching whether I'm tired. I'm not watching. I'm stepping over you to reach the work. You think I can't handle it. I think no one can handle 24 hours a day. I managed 18 months. Renata's jaw shifted. And what did it cost you? Claire pointed at the door. Renata left. The words followed Claire through breakfast, through cleaning, through 2 hours of sleep, and into the river bend that night. She disliked them most because Renata had not intended them as an insult. When Claire returned the next morning, a paper cup waited on the office counter. 2 sugars, a little cream. Renata had written surrender coffee on the lid. Claire found her in the yard and handed her a revised weekly schedule. No intakes on nights I work at the hotel, Claire said. Celia can cover early medication Wednesdays. You cover Tuesdays. Renata read it. Sunday? Alternating hotel shifts. Luis offered mornings. Did you ask him? He offered after overhearing our incredibly private conversation through a cinder block wall. They carry sound. I've learned. Renata folded the schedule and placed it in her pocket. I'm sorry, Claire said. So am I. For what? I didn't bring a biscuit with the coffee. That was the end of it. Lauren's visits became unpredictable. Sometimes she brought mail still arriving at Sylvia's house. Once she brought 6 bottles of detergent she claimed had been on sale. She never stayed long and never offered to help, but she learned every dog's name. She liked Reverend best. You should adopt him, Claire said, when Lauren spent 15 minutes rubbing his broad head through the gate. I have cream carpet. He'd fix that? Lauren smiled, then looked guilty for doing it. The foundation repairs at the ranch house had begun. Lauren financed them by selling some of Sylvia's furniture and taking a small loan. She did not ask Claire for money again. Ethan did not return the generator or washer. He sent one message claiming Cal's brother had changed the storage unit lock. Another said, the generator's carburetor needed work. Claire responded to neither. He asks about Briarwood, Lauren said one afternoon. He knows the address. He asks me. That sounds efficient. He told Aunt Pauline you're letting the rescue group run a business on land that belongs to the family. It belongs to me, I corrected him. Claire looked at her cousin. Lauren was standing beside Reverend's run in pressed white pants, her fingers still through the chain link. Thank you, Claire said. I didn't do it for you. Who'd you do it for? Lauren withdrew her hand. Accuracy. Reverend nudged the gate, demanding the return of her fingers. Lauren gave them back. The paid wing expanded to 5 runs by early summer. The bridge corridor usually held 3 or 4 dogs. The rescue group purchased larger emergency crates that folded against the storage room wall, part of the disaster plan Sylvia and Renata had discussed long before Claire understood it. Disaster plan sounds ambitious, Claire said, as Louise showed her the crate layout. Flood, fire, building failure, he replied. Doesn't have to be the end of the world. Usually it's the end of one roof. The crates could turn the cleared front exercise room into temporary intake space for a night or two. Color-coded tags matched animals to medications, feeding instructions, and transport destinations. Renata conducted a drill on a Sunday morning. Dennis played the role of a frightened dog. He was removed from the exercise room for excessive realism. Claire discovered that she liked drills. They had measurable failures. A box of tags sat too far from the intake table. The extension cord crossed a walkway. 3 crates could not open fully when placed according to Luis's first sketch. They corrected each problem. "You look happy," Celia told Claire. "I found 7 mistakes. I rest my case." The heat arrived in heavy waves. Fans ran constantly. Claire checked water bowls so often that Reverend began drinking whenever he saw her, apparently out of politeness. Weather reports warned of a line of severe storms late Friday. Claire moved outdoor equipment into the shed, tested the emergency lights, and sent Ethan one final message. "Severe weather tomorrow. Return the generator." The message showed as read. No reply came. On Friday afternoon, the sky turned the color of dirty wool. The first paid boarders had already arrived for the weekend. Duke in Run 2, the matching poodles in Run 3, and a shepherd named Lacey in Run 5. 3 bridge dogs occupied the main corridor. Renata stood in the office watching radar on her phone. "This line is moving faster than they expected." "Everything outside is secured," Claire said. "The gutters?" Luis checked them. Crates, front room, flashlights, charged. A low roll of thunder reached them. The dogs answered in different ways. Duke barked. The poodles climbed into the same pink bed. One of the bridge dogs began pacing. Claire turned on the radio and lowered the high windows. Rain hit the roof 5 minutes later, hard enough to erase every other sound. The office phone rang. Renata answered. She listened without speaking, then moved away from the window. "What?" Claire asked. Renata held up one finger. On the phone, she said, "Get everyone out of that section. Don't try to move the large crates until the wind drops." Something struck Briarwood's roof and rolled away. Renata ended the call. "That was second chance," she said. The intake building lost part of its roof. Claire looked toward the occupied corridors. "How many animals?" 23. "Where are the Fosters?" "Already full. 2 transport vans are out of county." Another call came through on Renata's cell. She silenced it. "The rain's too heavy to move them now," Claire said. "They have 1 dry room left. Water's coming through the ceiling." Claire pictured the emergency crate layout, the tags, the distances between doors. Briarwood had 14 usable runs between both corridors, plus the cleared front room. Not comfortably, not cheaply, but safely. If they moved fast and paired only dogs already housed together. Renata did not ask. Claire appreciated that for exactly 1 second. "Call the volunteers," she said. "Tell them the gate stays closed until the wind drops." "And after?" Claire looked at the whiteboard, where the normal limit of 4 bridge placements was written in her own hand. "After," she said, "we make room." The power failed before Renata finished calling the 4th volunteer. Emergency lights flickered on above the corridors, dim but steady. The ventilation fans wound down. Rain hammered the roof in solid sheets. Duke barked at the darkness. The poodles answered in high, synchronized bursts. In the bridge corridor, one dog began throwing himself against a gate. Claire took a flashlight and went to him. "Easy, Mason." He did not find this persuasive. She clipped on his leash, opened the gate only wide enough to enter, and sat on his platform until he stopped striking the fencing. His whole body shook against her leg. The phone vibrated in her pocket. "Ethan, on my way." She stared at the message. A second appeared. "Have generator. Don't yell until I get there." Claire put the phone away. "Luis and Dennis are 10 minutes out," she said. "Celia's coming from the south, so longer. April can't get past the downed tree. What about the intake building? They've moved all 23 into the dry room. How long will that hold? Water is coming through one wall. Joe says maybe an hour." Claire checked the radar. The red mass had nearly passed Briarwood, but another band followed behind it. "We can't open the gate in this wind. We won't. Tell Joe to separate medications now. Each animal gets its own bag and tag before transport. No loose food containers, no unlabeled blankets. Renata looked at her. What? Nothing. You're doing a face. I'm calling Joe. Luis arrived first, his pickup crawling through the rain with hazard lights flashing. Dennis followed close behind. They parked nose to tail near the main entrance so the vehicles shielded the office door from some of the wind. Claire met them beneath the overhang. Front exercise room gets 9 crates, she said, not 12. We need a center aisle. Luis nodded. Runs 7 and 8 are dry, but not cleared for normal boarding. I checked the gates last week, he said, usable for emergency holding. Confirm the drains. Nobody goes beyond the divider. Dennis pulled his cap lower. Where do you want intake? Office door for people. Side entrance for dogs. Every dog stops at the table before going anywhere. What if they arrive before the second tables are up? They wait in the vans. A gust drove rain beneath the overhang and soaked Claire's left side. Dennis grinned. You have been waiting your whole life to sound this bossy. Move. Yes, ma'am. He moved. Luis and Dennis unfolded crates while Renata laid colored tags, markers, clipboards, and medication bags across the office counter. Claire used painter's tape to mark traffic lines on the floor. Red toward the bridge corridor, yellow toward the paid wing, blue toward emergency crates. The system had looked excessive during the drill. Now it looked barely sufficient. Ethan's pickup appeared at the gate 20 minutes later, pulling a small utility trailer. A blue tarp covered something large in the truck bed. He stopped outside and ran through the rain. The gate chain's caught, he shouted when Claire opened the office door. It won't stay fully open. Leave it closed until the wind drops. I have the generator. Does it work? Yes. That wasn't sarcasm. I changed the fuel and cleaned the carburetor. It works. Luis joined them. Together, he and Ethan rolled the generator from the trailer and positioned it beneath the maintenance overhang. The wind nearly tore the waterproof cover from their hands. Claire looked at the tarp in Ethan's truck. The washer? Cal got back. You brought a commercial washing machine during a storm. You asked for it 6 weeks ago. I took a scenic route. Lightning flashed white across the yard. Claire pointed toward the laundry room door. Get inside. The washer had not improved in storage. A new dent marked one side, and a greasy handprint crossed the lid. 4 adults wrestled it onto the old dolly, rolled it through the rear door, and aligned it with the hookups. Bolts are in the cab, Ethan said. You kept the bolts? I'm not an animal. Luis glanced toward the occupied runs. Choose wording carefully. The generator coughed twice, then started. The office lights remained off, but Luis routed power to the corridor fans, emergency circuits, laundry room, and 2 portable work lights. The fans began turning. Every dog in the building barked. Good, Claire said. Now they hate electricity together. The first storm band passed at 7:30. Rain continued, but the wind lowered enough for trees to become trees again, instead of blurred shapes. Renata's phone rang. They're loading, she said. Claire wrote 23 blank lines on the whiteboard. Existing placements occupied 6 runs. 2 newly cleared emergency runs brought the usable total to 16. Bonded dogs already sharing at the intake building could remain together. 9 emergency crates filled the exercise room. Enough on paper. Paper did not pace, bite, vomit, panic, or find creative ways to open latches. A glossy black SUV stopped behind Ethan's pickup. Lauren stepped out holding a stack of towels over her head. Claire stared through the office window. What is she doing? Ethan tightened a hose on the washer. She called me. You called her? She saw the storm post. I told her to stay home. So naturally, she came. Lauren entered dripping from her sleeves. I brought towels. We have towels. Your washing machine spent 6 weeks in captivity. Ethan looked offended. It was climate-controlled. Lauren put the towels on the counter. What do you need? Claire almost said nothing. The office phone rang. Mason barked. Dennis yelled from the front room that one crate was missing a bottom tray. Claire pushed a stack of blank intake sheets toward Lauren. Match every form to a colored tag. Name, medication, feeding, run, or crate number. Nothing leaves this table without all 4. Lauren removed her wet jacket. Alphabetical? Arrival order. That seems inefficient. Arrival order, Lauren. Fine. She found 3 pens, tested each one, and arranged them parallel to the forms. Renata leaned toward Claire. Inventory system? Don't encourage her. The first van arrived at 8:06. Its rear doors opened on noise. 11 frightened dogs barked from travel crates, stacked and secured inside. Joe Patel, the intake supervisor, jumped down holding a plastic tote of medication bags. Her raincoat had torn at one shoulder. Roof peeled over the east row, she told Renata. Everyone's accounted for. No injuries beyond a cut paw. Claire took the tote. Bonded pairs, crates 4 and 5. Dogs are June and Cricket. 7 and 8 are also paired. Same owner surrender. They can share run 15 and emergency run 7. Who needs isolation? Walter has kennel cough exposure, no symptoms. Keep him far end with separate handling. Run 12. Birdie's old run. Who has the cut? Roxy, crate 2. Bring her first. The movement began. Each dog passed through the side entrance on 2 leashes, one handler ahead and another behind. Lauren called names and tag colors. Renata confirmed medication bags. Claire assigned locations. Dennis carried crates. Luis checked gates after every placement. Roxy was a compact brown dog with a white stripe down her face and blood on one front paw. She trembled while Joe cleaned the cut. Walter coughed once in run 12, causing every person to freeze. He does that when he pulls, Joe said. He's been cleared. Separate equipment anyway, Claire replied. A bonded pair of long-haired mutts refused to walk across the wet threshold. Ethan found 2 rubber mats and made them a path. The dogs followed him, pressed shoulder to shoulder. Run 15, Claire said. I know, Ethan answered. Yellow tags. He had been listening. The second storm band arrived before the first van was unloaded. Rain intensified. Thunder cracked directly overhead, and the emergency lights blinked. Keep moving, Claire said. A skinny hound named Lenny backed out of his collar in the side entrance. For 1 second, he was loose between the open office door and the corridor. Claire stepped sideways, blocking the office. Renata closed the corridor door behind him. Ethan dropped to one knee without reaching. Lenny crouched, eyes white around the edges. No one grab him, Claire said. Joe lowered a slip lead. Dennis turned his body away. Lauren stopped speaking at the intake table. The entire building seemed to hold still around the barking. Lenny sniffed Ethan's wet sleeve. Ethan remained motionless. He likes cheese, Joe whispered. Claire took a folded pill pocket from the medication tote and tossed it near Ethan's knee. Lenny ate it. The next one landed closer. On the third, Joe slid the slip lead over his head. Sound returned to the room. Ethan stood slowly. I was extremely useful there. You smelled like cheese. Still counts. The second van brought 12 more dogs and 3 bags of soaked bedding. One crate had tipped during loading, though the dog inside was unharmed. Another had vomited over everything within reach. The commercial washer began its first cycle at 9:15. Claire heard it spin from the corridor, low and powerful. Beautiful, isn't it? Ethan said beside her. I'm considering naming it after you. Because I returned it, because it creates extra work and makes disturbing noises. He accepted that. At 10:30, every restored run was occupied. 8 emergency crates held the remaining displaced dogs. The 9th stood ready if anyone needed separation. 29 dogs were now inside Briarwood. The reserve shelf emptied faster than Claire expected. Clean blankets disappeared. Food bowls ran short until Celia arrived carrying 2 storage tubs from the rescue group's foster supply. She had driven nearly an hour through rain. I brought bowls, towels, and enough coffee to alter heart rhythms, she announced. Lauren looked up from the intake table. Put supplies against the north wall. Coffee stays here. Celia blinked. Who's this? My cousin Lauren, Claire said. The inventory system? Lauren looked offended. Celia hugged her before she could object. At 11, the gate chain finally snapped. Wind caught the outer gate and shoved it halfway into the driveway. Ethan saw it from the office window. If another van comes through, that thing's going into the side panel. There are no more vans, Renata said. Someone may need to leave. No one leaves until it's secured, Claire replied. Ethan found a length of chain in the maintenance shed. He and Luis went out together with a wrench and 2 flashlights. The rain had weakened but remained hard enough to flatten Ethan's shirt against his back. Claire watched them brace the gate with the pickup, replace the chain, and wire the lower hinge where it had pulled from the post. Is he always like this? Renata asked. Wet? Useful when he thinks nobody will thank him. Claire looked at her. Don't make him poetic. Wouldn't dream of it. The generator ran out of fuel shortly after midnight. Ethan had brought 2 full cans. Claire said nothing about the red fuel cans he had taken with it. He refilled the tank and restarted it, while Luis checked the extension lines. At 1:30, Lauren found Claire in the storage room, counting food portions. You have 29 dogs, she said. I'm aware. The board says 28. Claire looked at the sheet in Lauren's hand. Run 3 housed both poodles under 1 paid reservation. Lauren had counted them as 1. 29, Claire said. Fix the total. Everything else is correct. Lauren went back to the office. No argument, no wounded expression, just correction. By 3, the storm had moved east. Rain softened to a steady tap. The dogs began settling in uneven waves. One would stop barking, then another. The hound Lenny slept with his nose against the emergency crate door. Roxy's bandaged paw rested on a clean towel. Claire walked every row with Renata. Names, water, gates, tags, medication. At run 12, Walter turned twice and lay down without coughing. At the paid wing, Duke was asleep on his back. The poodles still occupied 1 pink bed despite having 2. In the exercise room, emergency crates formed 2 orderly lines with a clear aisle between them, corrected from Luis's original sketch. No one had been placed beyond the divider. No gate had failed. No animal was missing. Claire returned to the office and drew a line beneath the 29th name. Renata stood beside her, soaked hair curling around her face. The intake building won't be usable soon, she said. Maybe weeks. Claire looked at the full whiteboard. Weeks, she repeated. We'll move animals to Foster's as space is open. Other groups will help, but not tonight. No. In the yard, Ethan sat on an overturned bucket beside the generator, keeping watch over its fuel. Lauren slept upright in Sylvia's metal chair, one hand resting on the completed intake forms. Claire opened the red folder. The money reserved for the next paid wing repair would now go to food, laundry, waste removal, and the larger electric bill. She wrote the first emergency expense beneath the latest boarding payment. Then she closed the folder. What happens in the morning? Renata asked. Claire listened to 29 dogs breathing beneath Briarwood's roof. We feed them, she said. Feeding 29 dogs required every clean bowl Briarwood owned, 3 borrowed stock pots, and a system Lauren rewrote twice before breakfast. Red tags first, Claire said. Red medications first, Lauren corrected. Then red feeding. Red shouldn't mean 2 things. I said that 4 hours ago. Renata, carrying 6 bowls along one forearm, passed between them. Excellent, you're both awake. Ethan came in from the generator, holding an empty fuel can. We have 40 minutes, he said. Until what? Claire asked. Until that thing becomes an expensive lawn ornament. The county roads were open, but the nearest gas station had no power. Luis siphoned fuel from his mower at home and returned with enough to keep the ventilation fans running until electricity came back shortly before 9. No one cheered. They were too busy cleaning. Wet bedding filled the laundry room floor. The returned washer worked through load after load, while volunteers carried dry blankets to the emergency crates. Celia coordinated yard breaks. Dennis washed bowls. Lauren remained at the intake table, updating every location change in handwriting so neat it looked printed. Ethan repaired the outer gate properly once the rain stopped. The lower hinge had torn 2 bolts from the post. He replaced them, added a brace, and tested the chain until Claire told him he was going to break it again. I'm verifying, he said. You're yanking. It's a technical distinction. By noon, 3 foster spaces had opened. 4 displaced dogs left Briarwood for another rescue facility west of the county. 2 more went to experienced Second Chance volunteers that evening. Every departure required the same care as intake. Correct dog, correct medication, correct food, signed location change. Nothing dramatic happened. That was the success. The storm had torn roofing from nearly half of Second Chance's leased building. Water-damaged food, paperwork, and sections of interior wall. It would not reopen in weeks. Briarwood carried the overflow. Claire called the owners of every paid boarder and explained the emergency. Duke's owner asked whether he should come early. If you can travel safely, Claire said. He's fine here. Then keep him. He loves chaos. The poodle's owner paid for 2 extra nights after a tree blocked her road. Lacey's owner offered to bring food as soon as the route cleared. By the 3rd day, supplies arrived faster than Claire could record them. Not money enough to transform Briarwood, but practical things: detergent, dog food, towels, trash bags, paper plates, batteries. The River Bend sent 3 cases of bottled water after Marcy learned why Claire had missed a shift. Marcy arrived with the delivery and inspected the corridor. "This is why you've been wearing 2 different shoes." That happened once. It happened twice. I didn't mention the second time because I respect grief. You told 4 housekeepers. I respect grief socially. Marcy stayed for 6 hours. The 23 displaced dogs became 19, then 13. Some moved to fosters. A rescue in the next county accepted 5. Roxy remained at Briarwood while her paw healed, and Lenny stayed because every available foster had a cat. The emergency reserve disappeared. Claire watched the money leave in detergent, waste pickup, added insurance coverage, food that did not arrive through donations, and fuel for the generator. The planned repair of 2 more paid runs was postponed. So was replacing the caretaker apartment's unreliable heater. Nothing about saving the intake operation made those costs imaginary. Renata found Claire in the office 10 days after the storm, building 3 different budgets that all ended with a negative number. "You need sleep," Renata said. "I slept last night." "For how long?" Claire continued entering figures. Renata placed a document over the calculator. It was a proposed operating agreement between Second Chance Passage and Briarwood. The group would pay a fixed monthly amount for access to 6 bridge runs and emergency capacity. Paid boarding income would remain with Briarwood after direct expenses. Second Chance would employ Claire as site manager for 30 hours a week. The salary was modest. Claire read it 3 times. "You can't afford this." "We can." "You lost your building." "We also received new recurring donations after the emergency. Not enough to rebuild a facility we don't own and maintain another one. Enough to move our core intake work here. I said no campaign about me. There wasn't one. People donated because 23 dogs stayed dry." Claire looked at the salary again. "It's less than the hotel. It's also fewer hours than the hotel. And you will not drive between 2 workplaces at midnight." "I like the hotel. Keep a shift. Marcy will complain. I've met Marcy. She'll complain either way." Claire turned to the last page. "Who wrote this?" "A person who enjoys forms. That remains suspicious. Read it, change it, have someone else read it. We don't sign until you're satisfied." Claire tapped the monthly facility payment. "This doesn't cover the emergency costs." "No, it covers the next month. We're setting a repayment schedule for supplies you advanced." "I didn't advance them. Briarwood paid. You keep trying to turn yourself into a building whenever money comes up. Buildings don't need sleep. This one certainly does." Claire took the agreement to the caretaker apartment and read it again at the kitchenette table. The brass Briarwood key tag rested beside her. Sylvia had carried it before giving copies of those keys to people Claire had once considered strangers. The agreement did not transfer the property. It did not bind Claire forever. It contained a termination period, placement limits, repair responsibilities, and the rule they had written together after the trial: 4 bridge placements under normal operation. Exceptions only by mutual agreement. There was a salary for work Claire had been treating as a debt. She changed 2 paragraphs, added a limit on emergency occupancy beyond 7 days, and signed a week later. Marcy accepted Claire's reduced availability with 9 minutes of outrage and an offer of alternating Sunday nights. "I knew you'd leave me," she said. "I'm working twice a month. Emotionally, you're gone." Claire hugged her. Marcy stiffened, then clutched the back of Claire's shirt. "Stop wearing different shoes," she muttered. The kennel settled into a pace that no longer required emergency tags on every surface. The last displaced dog left 26 days after the storm. Lenny went to an adult foster who owned no cats and had a 6-foot covered yard. Roxy moved into a long-term rescue placement after her paw healed. Walter never developed kennel cough. Second Chance repaired only the administrative portion of its leased building. Intake moved permanently to Briarwood under the new agreement. There was no sudden expansion. 2 front wing runs remained closed. Run 18 still had a broken underground pipe. The faded sign continued dropping paint into the weeds, but the bills were paid in their proper order. Ethan began coming on Saturdays. He never announced that he was volunteering. He appeared with tools, repaired something, complained about Luis's labeling system, and left before lunch if anyone thanked him too sincerely. The generator stayed beneath Briarwood's maintenance overhang. Ethan gave Claire its key and the service receipt. "Ownership dispute resolved?" she asked. I got tired of losing. You were never winning. That contributed. The washer remained bolted to the laundry room floor. Ethan also returned the red fuel cans. He did not apologize for taking them. Claire did not pretend returning them erased the cold night without power. They learned to occupy the space between those facts. Lauren came less often. When she did, she usually stayed near the office. She had repaired the ranch house foundation and sold enough furniture to manage the loan, though Sylvia's blue recliner remained in the living room. One afternoon, she brought an envelope containing several family photographs Claire had never seen. She placed it on the counter without explanation. "You should keep copies," Claire said. "I did." "Do Ethan's pictures have his head attached?" "Mostly." They looked through the photographs together. In one, Sylvia and May stood beneath Briarwood's original sign on opening day. May held a roll of paper towels, while Sylvia pointed angrily at something beyond the frame. What was she doing? Lauren asked. Probably explaining a preventable mistake. She liked those. She loved them. Lauren smiled, then closed the envelope. She did not apologize for telling relatives Claire had been taken advantage of. Claire did not ask her to volunteer. They were kinder to each other when they stopped using forgiveness as a door one of them had to walk through first. A week later, Sylvia's green enamel mug appeared outside the caretaker apartment. There was no note. Claire washed it and placed it beside the check-in ledger in the office. The brown stains inside would not come out. She stopped trying. Luis and Ethan replaced the old Briarwood sign in early fall. Claire refused every design that included a cartoon paw, a halo, or Sylvia's name. Celia submitted one, featuring Dennis being chased by a skunk and was removed from the committee. The finished sign used simple blue letters. Temporary care. Unbroken bonds. Ethan stood on a ladder, tightening the final bolt. "You know," he said, "Queen of the Kennels had more personality." Claire steadied the ladder. "Keep talking and I'll shake this. You're responsible for workplace safety now. Luis, how attached are you to this ladder?" "Emotionally?" Luis asked. Ethan tightened the bolt. When they stepped back, the sign looked almost too new for the weathered building behind it. The gutters matched. The roof no longer sagged at the east corner. Through the office window, the old photograph of Sylvia and May still hung behind the counter. Briarwood did not look restored to its past. It looked occupied by its future. The first cold evening of the season, Claire completed the medication log, turned down the office radio, and checked every latch. 3 paid dogs slept in the front wing. 2 bridge placements occupied the main corridor. Run 12 stood open. Wallace had spent the afternoon helping portion donated food into containers. He claimed Patrice had ordered him to find an activity that involved walking and other people. Roscoe spent most of that activity beneath the table, waiting for errors. Now, Wallace crossed the exercise yard toward his Ford, carrying an empty lunch bag. Roscoe followed at his heel until a smell near the fence distracted him. "Come on, son," Wallace called. Roscoe continued sniffing. Wallace laughed. 6 weeks with professionals, and you still don't listen." Roscoe lifted his head and trotted after him. Claire stood beneath the new sign, Sylvia's keys in one hand. For months, she had tried to decide whether the kennel was a gift, a burden, an apology, or proof that Sylvia had known her better than anyone else. It was none of those things by itself. It had been a choice Sylvia refused to make for her. Claire locked the office. Behind her, the dogs shifted on their platforms, safe for the night, but still belonging to lives beyond Briarwood's gates. Wallace's truck rolled onto the road. Claire went home to the caretaker apartment, leaving Run 12 open for whoever needed time to return.